Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Bev's Video Kingdom is brought to you by Cardiff Industries. At Cardiff Industries, you can rely on us for any task, big or tall. We specialize in major construction projects. And wait, let me ask you a question. Do you think that girl we use in our ads would make a good mom? I'm just wondering because I banged it out with her last week. No strap. Damn.
No strap.
Anyway, at Cardiff, we only hire the best engineers to design your projects. So you can be sure. Well, except Deanna. We won't hire Deanna. She's a hell of an engineer, but she thinks I gave her an STD. My test came back clean, though, so I can only imagine who credited her up with the herp. I mean, anyway, yeah, let's do business together. We can definitely make your construction dreams come true. Cardiff Industries.
Creditor up.
Did you say creditor up? Who credited her up with the herp? Jesus Christ.
Support our sponsors.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies, just a blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. Nick Nazak and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing.
Hey! Welcome to Bev's Video Kingdom.
That's our new tagline.
Your favorite intro.
This is Nick, and I'm with Nate, Zach, and Brad, and we are covering the delicious 2014 classic Chef, Jon Favreau's Chef. But Brad, we got a little announcement we want to discuss and get on a topic really quick.
Well, I mean, we've all did our time, man. We got out of jail. How you guys feeling? Like, are you guys feeling like you acclimated back to society, like being out of jail?
You see my face tattoo?
I mean, yeah, Nick got a tat. Well, I mean,
Nick looks like Gosling from Place Beyond the Pines right now.
It's weird, though, because Nick got the Facebook F on his right cheek.
It's like instead of a teardrop, it's the Facebook.
That's what you get in Facebook jail, yeah.
it's kind of wild. Zuck just holds you down and throws that tat on your face.
Yeah.
He's not that great of a
You
tattoo
want back
artist.
into the social network? You want back into the social network?
Kind of looks like a lowercase t.
Yeah, dude.
Go
We're
baby
back.
T. It's a cross.
And we are what? What's our other bit? Oh, well, that's right.
Oh, well, wait, no, I do want to say real quick, just social, the fact that we're back, we still have no clue why. It's one of those things, we got out of jail and we're like, can you let us know what we were in jail for in the first place? Like, nah.
Don't ask questions. Just take your walking money and go.
That was it. That's all it was.
So we're back on it, which means you need to find your friend. You need to go like us on Facebook and follow us. You need to tell some friends about us. We need a little surge. I'm feeling like we need a little surge in listenership. So hey, Bev's listeners, why don't you go tell a friend?
Yeah.
Text a friend, share our posts.
Share something to your page. Yeah. Get some of that recognition out there.
Make one of those signs you twirl on a corner and just like go to a big intersection, twirl for us.
We'll send you a shirt. If you show us doing that, for sure there's a shirt coming
If
your
you
way.
send video of sign twirling.
Yeah,
I love
100%.
That's 100% sure. Yeah.
You'll even get some stickers.
Even some stickers.
You can wear your stickers at the next twirl. So we also have a beer release this week.
This week,
We
ladies and gentlemen.
We tasted it on Saturday, and let me just tell you, it's my best beer I've ever had.
Phenomenal.
No joke.
It's good.
I mean, Nate, what are your top 5 beers?
I'd say Dos Equis Lager is number 2 behind BBK IPA.
Dos Equis Lager.
I had this when I
You answered that really quick, too.
back like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I was still wading into my drinking days, and I come home one day from La Morenita, where I had been hanging with my buddy Adam. And he I was like, well, I'll try a beer. He's having a beer, so I get a Dos Equis Lager. I come home all excited, and I tell my wife, I found my beer. I found it. She's like, oh, okay, cool. What is it? She's thinking it's going to be some like really interesting, IPA or some sort of fucking Hefeweizen. It's Dos Equis Lager.
The green bottle, man. You can't go wrong with the green bottle.
She almost kicked me out of the
But
house.
no, babe, it's the lager.
The lager, the green. What's the green one?
That's the one they give you at the all-inclusive resort. They're like, you can drink as much of this shit as you want.
I still say that's the best shit. It's the best lager.
So Nate's got,
my number two.
there you go.
That's my number 2. I'll let you. You know what? I'll let you know my number 3 later.
When he tries his third one.
So you got to come get some of that BVK IPA at our beer release party at Last Call Brewing in downtown Oakdale this Saturday night.
Saturday.
It's going to be delicious, topically topical food trucks there, too. So
Live performances
chicken
by
biscuits.
Scotch Beck,
Live music.
chicken biscuits.
Dude, there's no reason not to show up.
chicken biscuits and Scotch Beck.
Zach
Sprinkle a
Washburn,
little
Zach,
BBK.
Even if,
Zach
you
and
want
Nate are going to perform as well.
even if you want to stumble up, you got a beer in your hand and a chicken biscuit in the other, and just be like, "Man, you fuckers suck!" Like, hey,
It's
thanks,
all right.
man. Thanks for coming out.
Enjoy that biscuit.
Enjoy the beer.
We like that that constructive
Podcast sucks, but the beer's fucking delicious.
Let me buy you a chicken biscuit.
and we will sign your forehead if that's what you want.
Yeah,
Sign
yeah,
for it.
for sure.
All right, what are we talking about tonight?
Okay. Chef, baby.
Chef, baby.
I'll say first before you start, Nick, I'm excited about a little bit of a dive into how this movie came to be because it's kind of a funny little movie. So I'm curious.
You know,
what you got.
I was talking to Nate a little bit about that too, and he actually described it the exact same way. It's like a funny little movie.
Yeah, it's not quite like a feature film to me. It's like it's like a cute short.
Oh, I can't
You
wait.
and I are right on the same.
It's like a cute little Disney short.
But I don't want to give away
Okay.
my position, so I want to hear about it.
All right, your position's coming up quick. Let me just give you some of the nitty gritty. All right, so Chef came out 2014, had a budget of 11 mil, gross worldwide. It did 48 mil. Jon Favreau directed it. He also, Jon Favreau directed Made, Elf, Iron Man 1 and 2, which kind of put him on the map as far as big budget. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Elf did. But as far as like the Marvel Universe, Iron Man is one of my favorite OG kind of Marvel superhero movies. It's an amazing superhero movie. Iron Man 1. Cowboys and Aliens, never really watched the whole thing. But then he came back to Chef, and then he did the 2 like live action Disneys of Jungle Book and Lion King. And then he ended up having I feel like a pretty good hand, and Brad might be able to clarify this, a hand in The Mandalorian, whether it's writing.
I think he directed most of the
writing,
episodes.
directing. Yeah. I mean, basically showrunner.
Did you see not the Lion King, but the other one?
Saw Jungle Book.
I saw Jungle Book in
He
the
did- he
theater,
Thought it was
Jungle Book.
legit.
and I was like, "This is sick."
It's badass.
I didn't love the Lion King adaptation. It didn't work for me, but the Jungle Book was really cool, I thought.
He wrote Swingers, and so there's kind of like this parallel, this bridge that I've read about as far as starting at Swingers, going through his big budget, stint, and then landing back on Chef as like a small, intimate storyline, similar to Swingers but more adult and advanced. And he's cut his teeth on all of the big budget movies up to that point. And I think you can tell, which is why it's a funny little movie, but it moves at a good pace. The cast is unbelievable. This movie I think is probably the movie I've rewatched the most since it came out in 2014. It's a movie that I turn
Really?
on when I'm like at Zach, when I'm scrolling through Netflix and HBO and Disney Plus, when I'm on my like minute
Fourth time
30,
through. Yeah, exactly.
and I've
What are we gonna
I've just
watch?
given up. Chef's going on, and that's if I haven't already picked it already. Just to the movie montages, movies that show the creative process. There's not many about the arts, but anything that specifically when you can make food look the way that they make it look, and you can see the process of cooking it, and someone that does it well, and then you learn to find out that Jon Favreau, he did it all. He was taught by Roy Choi. That was like his mentor through this entire thing. Roy Choi is a LA chef who owns Kogi Korean taco truck. That's where he got his that was his name to fame. He owns multiple restaurants, one in Vegas now. He just opened in the last couple of years called Best Friend. And Roy Choi is a badass, and they've created this huge friendship. They went on to create Chef Show. And because of go ahead.
So have you watched Chef Show?
Oh yeah, I've rewatched episodes of that multiple times.
2 nights ago, we're looking through doing the same thing you're talking about. We had just finished Cobra Kai or something
Yeah.
like that, and we're just like clicking through, and Chef Show comes on, and I'm like, all right, we should watch this because we're doing a pod on this on that movie we just watched, And then like 8 episodes later, we're like, all right, I guess we should do we should go to bed or
So,
something.
so Chef Show's legit.
I don't want to say it's legit because I don't want to say that it's a great show because it's not, but it's very interesting and they have a bunch of different people on, but I think it could have been done better. It's very minimalist. It's literally like it just starts and Favreau's talking. There's no like where are you from, or this is what restaurant we're at, or this is, you know what I mean?
They
It's
talk
just
about
like-
the dishes, like they introduce like a dish that they're going to make. They have this like kind of funky way that they'll animate like the dish they're going to make, and then Roy kind of walks it through, and it's like their banter back and forth. Roy doesn't do a lot as far as, he doesn't say like what amounts of ounces of this he's putting into the recipe.
It's definitely not something you could watch and be like, oh, now I could like rewind that and make that. because
Okay, so
they're
it's
like-
not a competition. It's not any. It's just
No.
like we're
It's
gonna
a-
make a
it's a
dish. We're
cooking
gonna
show.
banter a little bit.
It's like a cookie. It's a cooking show, but like Zach's saying, it's very minimalist, and they're not trying to. You're not going to be. If you took notes, it's not like you're going to know how to make that recipe if you watch that episode. But I think you can Google it at this point and find a lot of the recipes
all
that
the
are on the
food.
show.
All the food looks great, but it's not like they're not going for over the top entertainment by any means. It's like just Favreau trying to cook with this other professional chef, and then whoever they're cooking with, and they're just kind of there, just
Special
cooking
guest.
together.
It's almost like a podcast. If you were listening to it, it's
very
kind of
much
like
so.
podcast.
There's no
how it's
like,
structured.
hey, I'm John Favreau, and we're here with. It's none of that. It's
Well, I mean,
just like it
Fabs
starts-
he had a live action podcast back in the day. I mean,
Oh, really?
With the dinner was it Dinner for Five? I think it was called. And he would sit down with directors and actors, and they would sit down at a meal. The servers would be coming out serving plates as they're talking, and it was just a podcast. Them discussing shit, Hollywood, movies, life.
So I guess the thing about this show is that he doesn't necessarily do a lot of that either. It's
Because-
not like him telling stories or anything like that. It's just kind of they're just cooking and they just kind of bullshit, and it's not real interesting other than the food looks great and like the way that they're doing it is interesting. You know
my,
what I mean?
my daughter watches all the cooking shows, so I think we're gonna have to sit down and
Yeah.
check this one
I
out.
It's on
definitely
HBO
recommend
Max.
it.
We started
It's
watching
one of my
this-
streaming recs.
Have you seen the fast food one where they have like the comedians on that talk about their favorite fast foods, and then the chef? There's like 3 chefs, and they have to like recreate the fast food.
I've heard of it.
That sounds
yeah.
awesome.
It's ridiculous. They're taking shots during it, and it's like kind of supposed to be like, hey, we're a little crazy and wild and stuff, but it's kind of fun.
This movie made me reminisce, and watching that chef show made me really reminisce about like wanting to watch old school Food Network, where it was like Giada De Laurentiis and like all these guys in there, but they're like giving you very specific recipes on how to do stuff and like giving you very specific instructions. Just them
And they're
like,
just
cooking
making
the
it.
food.
And they're just
Yeah.
cooking a thing.
Yes.
But now everything has to be a
Well,
competition or like some sort of like timed thing, and it's like let them do it good. It doesn't need to be in. You can edit this down to however long you want it to be. It doesn't.
Yeah.
They don't need to finish it in 30 minutes or whatever. Like manufacturing drama where there doesn't need to be any. Nate, I think Nate agrees with me. He wants to make some delicious Giada food.
No, I love reality TV. I want all of it all the time. More, if you can make a competition out of anything and then like pretend like it's really dramatic, I'm in.
What does this say about Nate that he's on this super popular podcast? He doesn't listen to any of the episodes, but he watches hours and hours of reality TV.
I actually don't. I hate reality TV.
You couldn't have gone with that? You couldn't have let him think? Just like Brad tried to make you out to be a big pothead the other night. Where he was like, much like Nate, Kevin Smith never touched marijuana until he dove into all of it and smoked all of it in his head.
By episode 100, everybody just thinks I'm a pothead sitting there watching, like
Reality TV.
watching like the worst cooks in America.
Too hot to handle.
Nate, I want to hear your thoughts because I talked to you first tonight. You called it a funny little movie before Zach.
So it's, my take on this is it's different in the sense that I got this feeling like the story and the storyline and the plot, I guess if you call it a plot, I mean I don't know if you wouldn't even call it that, like is almost, it's certainly secondary to what the main motivation for the movie is. And I don't want to say that that's like it's slapped over the top of it, because it doesn't actually feel like that. You could almost imagine a movie that like was slapped on too much, and I think it would force the pace to be different, which I wouldn't like. And I think what your point about the pacing being good is right on. What they don't let it do though is like the content could get really like heavy, and they never let it feel heavy. And I think it's a choice, because I think that would run too hard against what they really want to prioritize, which is they want this to be a show where you just get to enjoy, like hop from moment to moment of like montages of either a transformation or of cooking or of the chaos of like experience of being in a food truck and like trying to serve food quickly or in a kitchen. But like the interactions, for example, between the son and the father, it has the potential to feel really deep and meaningful and heavy, and it never does to me.
So to me, the scene where Favreau drops the hammer on him and tells him that he's being lazy and he's not doing good enough and all that, that's like a Tuesday at my house talking to my sons, and like that's the most devastating part of the movie. You're like, oh my god, he hurt his kids' feelings, and I'm like, fuck, I talk to my kids like that all the time, like probably way worse than that. Like,
but I think part of it is like, so the kid's not a very good actor, which is fine. He's a kid.
Really?
Oh, I didn't.
I
Think
kind of dig him.
I thought he did good.
I didn't think he distracted from the movie.
I didn't think he didn't distract from the movie. I guess what I'm saying is like sometimes you get the depth where from like a kid actor that's really punching above their weight, and that's not what's happening here. I mean, it's not bad. It's just not. And I just think again, like Favreau's not going for that. And so for me, the movie is just it's very like enjoyable to watch. But you keep wondering whether you're supposed to be feeling things, and you're not.
I mean, maybe we should wait to ask him. But I mean, can we also just think that maybe this was just a reason to have him make out with ScarJo and Sofia Vergara?
Does he make out with both of them in the movie?
I mean, maybe it's insinuated.
I don't
I was
know.
gonna say, I don't think he
Maybe he
actually-
doesn't actually kiss ScarJo, but
I've got
Does
pages.
he kiss Vergara in the
maybe not.
in the closing scene? I don't think so.
I literally have written down for what I'm going to talk about at the very beginning is did Favreau write this movie?
yes.
Yes.
And he was like, you know who I'm boning? It's I was boning Gloria from Modern Family, and now I'm boning ScarJo.
All right, wow.
And it could go anywhere from here, guys. I don't even know.
I've got a hot take on this. I'm going to get antagonistic later about this.
Why later? Why not get antagonistic?
You want me to
Yeah.
antagonize right now?
No,
Yeah.
don't do it now. Don't do it now because I've got a lot on this subject. Let's
Okay,
move
well,
away
all right,
from.
I might play Zach's devil's advocate.
Let's move
here.
away from Favreau's like harem that he's got going. Starting.
I do want to give
Bradley,
Favreau props because as a movie maker, it seems like he's making intentional choices to make movies that are fun, that are silly, that don't take themselves too seriously, and he doesn't do anything that's really dark or crazy. Like, I mean, even when think about it, he's done Marvel shit. He must love comics and stuff. He's done Star Wars shit now. He must love Star Wars. He's done
Jungle
a movie
Book,
like this,
the Disney movies,
Yeah, the
like
Disney
Lion King and
movies.
Jungle Book.
He's doing Disney movies. He's doing Chef, where it's just a fun little whimsical romp.
I think
with
also
food. Like,
also a passion for him though because he's also doing the TV show. Like it seems like a weird connection to like a tiny movie, right?
So what it is it started, his love for cooking straight up came from this movie. It came from the research
Oh,
he
really?
did from Roy Choi. They became friends,
and it
right
shows
away.
at the end, Roy's showing him how to make that grilled cheese, right? So
And
he's
like Roy Choi like gets in there and he like tells him all these little details. And Roy Choi told him before when when they were making this movie and they talked to Roy Choi, he's like, I'll do it as long as you let me be there to make sure you get all of the chef and the inside the kitchen things right, because movies hardly ever get it right.
and Favreau wanted to do it right.
And what the thing for Favreau, like Brad's saying, is the dude dives in 100% all the way in anything that he does. And the chef show is because he, after this movie, tore his kitchen out and installed a professional grade kitchen because he fell in love with cooking and he couldn't get enough of it. So the show is kind of him learning, but at that point he's been through a couple years of being good friends with Roy Choi and like knowing his shit pretty good and like impressing these chefs and these people that they have as guests. But he's always trying to learn, and you get to see Jon Favreau as like just a normal dude who just happens to fucking love cooking all of a sudden with his friend, and they're just chopping it up like a podcast.
He very much comes off as like not trying to be impressive
No.
or entertaining or anything. He's just being a dude.
Doesn't come off like Robert Rodriguez.
What? Fuck Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, in that show. That's what. Yeah, fuck him.
Oh wait, Robert Rodriguez come across bad.
He's a little much. That's a nice way of saying it.
Damn, I gotta check this out.
It's
now.
like the Robert Rodriguez show on that one episode. It's my least favorite episode.
Oh no.
He takes over.
But anyways, Brad, yeah.
But to sum up, I like this movie. I really
Yeah.
do. But I find myself, it's a super different experience for me. Like to like evaluate the movie, it almost like feels like I got to be on a totally different scale or something. I don't know.
Should we get Favreau in here? Or are we not ready yet?
We're not ready.
I was going to ask you what your
But
thing.
Brad, you were still
didn't
talking.
really dip
Yeah.
into
Oh,
your
okay.
thoughts. I cut you off really quick.
I cut him off.
Well, it's interesting because Nick earlier when we were talking about being a silly movie, and at one point I think you just said a silly Disney movie, and I was thinking to myself like this is almost like a fairy tale in a sense. Like it's just
Dude, that's
everything happens that is like it's happy and I was thinking once they got the truck and they start kind of taking off and they kind of like going through that fun montage, I'm like, oh fuck, man, what's gonna happen? Some bad shit's gonna happen. Like
You're all tensed up when they're on the freeway.
yeah, I'm like Marvin's gonna die,
All of a
or
sudden the
they're gonna
truck
get a
rolls.
wreck, or like they're gonna get carjacked or something. Like some bad shit's gonna go down. I'm just waiting for it, and it just never happens. And it's like, not that I was disappointed. It's still an enjoyable movie. Like I'm like, oh, okay, this is just gonna be a fun movie. Like I almost wish I knew that going into it. I could just be like, you're just gonna enjoy this movie. It's gonna be like eating a nice slice of cake, and you're gonna enjoy it, and that's it.
So I equate it in my head, and I wrote down, this is like the model of Ted Lasso, right? So it's like,
wow.
nothing is ever too bad, and there's conflict, but it's like, we're going to work through this conflict, obviously,
That's
and then
good
everything leaves you feeling good at the
point.
end. I feel like it's very very in that formula, right? And part of the allure of Ted Lasso is the happiness, right?
And that's so funny. Did you say like a dream?
I saw like a fairy tale.
Fairy tale.
Yeah.
So I had written down kind of like it's like a dream sequence of like everything kind of flows smoothly. There's nothing too hard. That, like Nate said, so like you guys, that's really funny that you guys felt that way, and I'm glad you guys liked it. You know, at the end of the day,
It's hard not to like this movie unless
Right.
you're just like cynical as fuck and you're just like, God damn. this
and
is
it's a
just
hell of a
too-
cast too. The cast like kind of like is the foundation. You got John Favreau, Robert Downey Jr., who's is amazing douche, Scarlett Johansson, Dustin Hoffman, John Leguizamo, and then I actually love Bobby Cannavale
And Sophia Vergara.
Russell Peters
and
is the
Sofia
cop.
Vergara. And then you have Oliver Platt as the food critic.
Yep.
Russell Peters, the comedian who's like the cop in Miami who takes the
Insta-cop.
selfies with him. Yeah. So amazing cast. And obviously at that point, John Favreau's, hot. And that, people want to be in John Favreau movies.
And you know what, Cliff? I always go back to what Cliff was talking about, like those actors that come in for like one day shoots.
Yeah.
Like it feels like Favreau just called them, hey, just come in for one day. Like I sent Robert Downey obviously came in for one day. Dustin Hoffman obviously came in for one day.
Yeah.
All these guys are just showing up for like one day, like one little scene. He just kind of pieces it together. It's like, I'm just gonna have fun with this, and I'm thinking that's just what he was going for. It's just,
And ScarJo might only have been on for 2. I mean, she's
Yeah.
really not
She was.
very much.
She's in the scene at the apartment, and then a couple scenes at the restaurant and in the restaurant parking lot, and that's it.
yeah. So she probably was maybe one day as well. So I mean, yeah, this doesn't seem like that was a difficult movie to make. I mean, really,
Well, and it sounds like he really enjoyed the diving into the cooking part, so he could look like a realistic chef. Which sounds like that's
Right.
what sparked his passion for this. Which you can tell when you watch the movie. What was funny about this one is that the wife and I had both seen it, and we were both like, we had real like, And I don't know what the situation was when I watched it the first time, because when we watched it the second time, we were both like, that was awesome.
It was lovely.
We loved it, dude. and like it has like we were saying earlier, it has the feeling of like a I like the fairy tale, like a light breezy, like this guy's actually he's just actually in the kitchen and he's accidentally fallen asleep and he's gonna wake up at the end, but he's like, oh yeah, I'm boning ScarJo, and then sometimes I go over to Sofia Vergara's house and our kid's there, and then I'm gonna get this taco truck and I'm gonna tell my boss off and all this stuff, and it's like this really big like kind of like fantasy, which I love it.
yeah, I can see like if you're first time watching, you're expecting some type of conflict and it just never really shows up. So. That could be a little frustrating, and
Maybe.
it almost was, but then I was just like, you know what? This movie is what it was.
So I found myself this time, and I don't remember having that exact experience, but I definitely this time was really looking forward to, like, I wanted to jump ahead to some of the montage scenes and some of the like little pivot moments that like lead into those. And I kind of was like, in my head, I had this like road map, and they were all just like jumping from one to the other, right? So I was kind of prepared for the fun and ready to re-experience it this time around. And I wasn't, I was kind of prepared and, and not distracted by what the story was or wasn't. And maybe that's, sort of implicitly what it was too for you, right? It's also, I guess, it's been a minute since I've seen it. And I think I've also, I don't even know how to say this without just sounding like a pretentious snooty
You gonna
dick.
say how good a cook you are?
No, I'm not a very good.
We're gonna get
Fuck
into
you,
we're gonna get
bud.
into that in the next segment.
Well,
So,
yeah, let's
about
jump
good
into this. I guess it's a comment really that I don't know how to feel about my relationship to food, right? Because it's an interesting thing, right? You kind of feel like this saying that well, food is meaningful and you like to try and experiment different food. Like it quickly ventures into that like foodie pretension. But I think there's something much more fundamental about it, and maybe this movie does a good job of picking that up. Maybe this movie's about the contrast between it. But I think, my like thoughts about food and trying different foods is sort of evolving all the time. And I think it was interesting for me in that way too. It's like thinking about how do I think about food and what it is, and like how I want to expand, what I've tried and stuff like that.
So I watched it with my family, and I think one of the things that really just sparked for me was the fact that when my wife and I, when we go to new towns or when we've gone out of the country and stuff, it's like we want to find good food, some music, some good times.
But you're
And
not
it's
worried about stars or Michelin or any
No,
of that
no.
shit.
We just want to find some good, authentic food. And it's like just one of those things where this movie brought good food. There's a great soundtrack, a lot of music, little montages and things. So it gets you in that mood of like, man, this just reminds me of like going out and, finding some good spot to eat and like some good times that I've had. And it just, I don't know, it brings out good feelings. So like I give Favreau props for that, just because any movie nowadays that just makes you feel good, you're like, okay, good job.
Yeah, we'll take it. Well, on that note, I mean, let's just get John's ass in here so we can talk to him, because then I'm gonna cut him off, and then I'm gonna ask you guys questions about your cooking, because I've talked enough about him and fluffed him up enough. But
What do we think John's drinking?
well, I don't know. He's probably
I just won't
drinking
speculate. I don't know
a
what
beer
John
from our
drinks.
sponsor, because Drinking with Director is
Oh,
sponsored
BBK
by
IPA?
BBK
Oh, yeah,
is by Last Call. Brewing.
Absolutely.
Or Dos Equis Lager.
Get on board, Dos Equis.
Tonight, I think three of us right now are drinking some Last Call Brew.
What is it that you gave me? It's delicious.
They just released a new hazy. It's called Winter Hazecation.
Oh yeah, you said that.
Little pun there, but it's a nice little delicious. It's a good winter beer because it's not like super sweet. It's got just a little bitter. It just kind of warms you up. Delicious hazy. Again, Walter Ramirez, who we'll be talking to later on Thursday, just makes good beer. And I every time I always text him, I'm like, dude,
You're
come
amazing.
So I mean, if
Walter.
Thank you.
if our BBK IPA is as delicious as the Staycation, man, it's
It is
absolutely
I
delicious.
can tell you that for sure.
No, you know what?
Better-
I actually almost like the front end of ours better.
No, I'm
And this
telling
is
you.
really good, but ours is a little bit more, I want to say tropical, but that's not what it is.
I think that's the
I
right
think
word.
that's
Juicy?
right. I think it is I think that it's more mango-y.
Yeah, it's fucking delicious, guys.
I don't know. I just made that up.
That's about right.
So
I'm
John, Brad, Zach, me are all drinking Last Call. What's Nate?
I'm drinking
drinking?
a big boy soda pop.
Yeah, Nate told me that he has liquor in his soda again, guys.
I do. Zach was like, when we were out hanging with Zach this weekend, and we were talking about the pod, and Zach's like, my favorite episodes are the ones where Nate gets a little bit tipsy.
No, they are.
And
No,
he's like, he starts to say things he shouldn't.
I don't think the audience notices as much as I do, but man, those are my favorite
All
ones.
right. Well, so in Zach's honor, I'm on my way.
Yeah,
What did you spike the pop with?
You know, I don't. I maybe this is heresy or not. It's a Hirsch High Rye, the Hirsch 8-year. So it's a little rye whiskey. I don't know if it's too good to mix. Nothing's too good for me to mix because
No, because you want everything to
Just how
taste
I
like
roll.
Diet Pepsi and grenadine. So
exactly.
My go-to
taste
lately
it.
has been a little pull a maker's mark before I get over here, just to
Oh, I like me.
Loosen up the shoulders.
just
Loosen up the braids a little bit.
absolutely gets the braids a little. They start bouncing a little bit, so that's how
Brad,
we
how
start this off.
seriously though, how long does it take to braid both braids?
It's getting longer, and that kind of sucks. 'Cause
It's
it's like
really long. At the end, it's almost like, ladies and gentlemen, it's like a rattlesnake. Like, you know how the end of the rattlesnake, it's like really
it does
small
look
at the
like
end,
two
and you're
rat-
like, wow, that's an impossibly small tail on that rattlesnake. But that's what the bottom of Brad's braid looks like.
yeah, the rattles are getting longer and longer, and it takes. Let me think. It takes about 10 minutes. No, my wife is she's.
Oh wow!
That's
To
pretty
do
good at it.
both?
Yeah, she's pretty legit.
That's fucking wild, bro. That's a long ass braid.
So when are you gonna? I mean, let me just ask the question that everyone wants to know: when are you shaving and cutting all?
Yeah,
this
what's
shit?
what's
How
gonna
long?
happen?
Man, who knows? Who
You're
knows?
gonna keep?
Can
it
we have a
forever?
competition?
If the Niners lose,
Can we have a competition? Oh, I don't like that at all. 'Cause
I mean,
wanna see
okay.
this happen.
case you
So
guys are
Nate,
wondering-
at your house previously a while back. So I've always had the same haircut forever, and just
Well,
around,
previous to this,
previous to
to the
this,
braids.
I always had the same haircut forever. And at Nate's house, we were watching UFC one night, and one of my buddies was like, "Hey, man, let's bet on this main event." I'm like, I don't really got money to buy. He's like, "All right, how about you shave your head if this guy wins, and I'll pay you $400 if the other guy wins."
400 to shaved head.
Yeah.
As a bald guy, I think that's a deal.
And I took the deal. I was very confident that I was not going to be losing my hair that night. And then I lost.
There are there are pictures and videos.
Yeah, I shaved
There's
my head.
videos of you getting your head shaved.
I think so.
I went down.
Did he hold the braid up and go?
I don't know what that means, but the braid was not there at the time. This was back when I just had short hair. You remember
That
me?
wasn't racism.
I knew you,
that was a turkey noise. I was being a turkey.
Was that Avatar?
I knew you before I had the braids, right?
Yeah, I knew you for a long time.
A long time. So I
Yeah.
used to have short hair, dude.
Yeah, we remember when Brad was a good-looking man.
No one
Before the braids.
remembers you without braids.
It's just the way it is now. It's like that's who he
That's
is.
who you are. It's how you've always
He's
been.
that dude with braids.
It's good that your name's Brad because then I can autocorrect you to Braid in my phone. It's like, oh, Braid.
Look
send
at the
it to
big
Braid,
brain on braid. Oh man,
All
we
right.
got sidetracked.
So hey, we're talking to John, but
Hey Fabs, what's up, man?
John's
But,
like, you really asked me here to talk about this dude's hair the whole time?
hey, John, you're sitting here and you think I have questions for you, but I don't. I got questions for my friends here because it has to do with cooking. We've talked about your cooking.
Ooh.
I was right. I'm taking notes for this thing, and this gets me pumped up to cook. So I can say we're getting ready. We're coming to the weekend of the NFC Championship game. Zach, Brad, I'm going to say Nate. We're all Niners fans.
Nate's
Nate's an
Nate's
honorary.
on the
Yeah. I mean, as
Nate's
of this
an
podcast,
honorary.
we're hoping that the Niners are in the Super Bowl. We don't know.
Right. Coming up
Oh,
on the
yeah.
NFC Championship game against the LA Rams or the San Carlos Rams. And we're going to be getting together. And I'm thinking about what I want to cook, what I want to bring to, Zach's being a gent and hosting and
Ooh, what are you
thinking
gonna bring?
about, I don't know. I'm going to talk to you about it. I'm thinking about maybe a 50-50, burger to bacon, ground hamburger for some burgers, maybe some sliders, a butcher. I don't know. Maybe thinking some wings. I don't know.
I just figured out what I'm bringing, and it's going to be the recipe that you're going to ask me about.
What are you going to bring to Zach's on Sunday, bro?
Is that what we're discussing? I love it.
So I asked earlier what my family said. Well, what's the best thing I cook? And this was generally considered the best thing I cook, and it's called Nate's Sweet and Spicy Garlic Shrimp.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you throw these puppies on skewers, and the main thing here is you got to use some sort of jalapeno or spiced olive oil as your base for your marinade, but you also got to use a whole shit ton of brown sugar. So the marinade is like a mix of like the spicy oil and the brown sugar, and then there's a bunch of other seasonings and things in it. Throw your shrimp in there, you marinate them a while, throw them on the queue.
That sounds great. That was the next thing I was going to ask was what we all like to cook here. So everyone listening, all four of us, we like to cook. We like to cook for our friends. We like to cook for our family. We actually kind of dive into it ourselves when we have time to dive into cooking. So Nate's got the sweet, spicy shrimp. Zach, Brad, I want to know what you guys,
Oh, I know, Brad.
what are a couple, just like top of your head that you
Can I
cook
just,
well?
So can I just first of all say that my favorite thing that Nate cooks is not that, and it is the sous vide tri-tip. And then he sous vides the tri-tip and then burns it with a torch like some sort of crazy person, and it comes out absolutely delicious. And my favorite thing that Brad cooks is some birria fucking tacos.
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
My god!
We just went to to a place in Vegas that specializes in
Yes.
birria tacos this last weekend, and Zach and I both took a bite, and we're like, they're not as good as Brad.
The talk of the table was and they were like $40 for 3 tacos. And we were like, these tacos are nowhere near as good as Brad's.
Mine are
birria
hella
taco.
cheaper.
They're free to me, bro.
I will say that it's totally related to this podcast because the birria that I first saw was from a food truck down in LA, and it was like on some Instagram video or something, and I was like, holy shit, like this is probably, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, and I was like, those tacos look just crazy bomb. And so it was just a matter of like, the beauty of the internet, let's figure out how to make some birria tacos. Found a YouTube channel, my girl Claudia, who does some cooking videos.
Claudia.
And she's great, and she taught me how to make birria, so I just went by her recipe and kind of tweaked it my own, and yeah, I'll cook up.
Would you say that's maybe one of the better things that you feel like that you cook?
I have always felt I can do. I like to sous vide, so steaks, fish, things like that. I feel like I'm going to make something really nice and tasty using the sous vide stuff, and then. I'm lucky enough to work in an area where it's very diverse. So I'm getting Filipino cooking. I'm getting a lot of good Mexican cooking and stuff. So pozole, lumpia, sushi bake. Shit like that. That's just a lot of different types of styles from different cultures, and I embrace all of it. And
Good stuff. Do you go? I mean, you got kind of a collection of cookbooks that you kind of will turn to, or do you
not
like
really.
look up? Do you Google machine?
Yeah, usually, I mean, it's going to be a YouTube or a little Google, and until I find something I think I'm very particular. Like I'm going to do some. I'm not going to just be like first recipe I find. I'm going to like
Right.
kind of look. But I mean, like Serious Eats, Kenji J Alt. I mean, he's a dude that I kind of went for like prime rib and stuff like that, and a lot of different like meat dishes and stuff. So there's people I look to, but I'm always just kind of looking. Okay, who seems like they're making good food? I want to try to do what they do and figure out how they do it and emulate. So I mean, it's all about emulation. I mean,
It is,
that's
and then
the
you
thing.
kind of end up. You have to figure it out yourself, anyways, when you're in the kitchen. What about you, Zach?
I make
Smoked meats.
mostly smoked meats. I make ribs.
Best ribs, maybe the best ribs I've ever had.
They're-
Dude, I've made some good
amazing.
ones. They're fucking they're good. And then my other thing that is like my main go-to is the breakfast food. So I do bacon, fried eggs, the hash brown pucks that look like they're from McDonald's. Do
Oh, okay,
those
yeah.
in the air fryer. And then we also do the smaller version of the Pillsbury cinnamon rolls. You got to use that whole frosting.
Oh, all of it. If you're not, yeah.
When
You
I was a
better use
child,
it.
my friend Amanda is always like, "Are you going to tell the frosting story?" Every time that I get these things out, she's like, "So when I was a child, my father, for the first like 15 years of my life, threw away half the frosting, and I did not know that." He would throw away half the frosting, then frost the cinnamon rolls with half the frosting, and like say that it was better for us. I'm sure it probably was, but when I found out, it was like way worse than Santa not being real. It was like there is more fucking frosting, and I just like had this thought in my head of like all the frosting that had been wasted and thrown into the garbage. Oh, it was disgusting, dude. Thanks,
Oh,
Dad.
that's a crime. You said that was your dad?
That was my dad. He's trying to be healthy.
I asked my wife, like, what are the things, kind of like Nate, that she thinks that I cooked or that she enjoys the best that I've cooked. Eggplant Parmesan is one.
Ooh.
She listed off a couple different Italian, and I've made the scarjo pasta multiple times since chef.
Oh.
It's one of my favorite pasta dishes that I've ever
That, not to blow up our draft coming up on Thursday, but like that's got to be a contender for number one.
It
It
You
made me
think that-
excited watching it.
Well,
You think
watching
that's-
Scar-
have you guys okay?
I'll just
You
start
have
with
to
his
make
face.
you have to make it. It's easy
no?
and it is
Is there like a recipe?
unbelievable. Oh yeah, it's all over internet. Yeah. Yeah.
Damn, dude.
You think it looks more delicious than the grilled cheese that he makes?
Well, I'm
Let's-
Italian. I kind of am partial to all
That's
things
tough.
pasta and
Because
garlic.
that grilled
I know.
cheese, that grilled cheese looks.
we're
pretty
all
ridiculous.
stepping on our feet right now. Like,
That's it. But we got to, it's too damn good.
So I will say that I think that though I wouldn't claim this as a regular thing. When I asked my wife, she said the best thing you've ever cooked, and I think you all tried it. She asked me to try this when I was first trying to do the sous vide. I found a
man.
recipe for
I know exactly
for
The brisket.
the brisket.
brisket.
for
Oh,
Texas
what he's
brisket.
talking about.
And so,
That's
like,
funny, dude.
I'd never done it, and I
I think you didn't mention that. At
I
the
got
top.
I know I got this brisket, and I followed kind of a combination of two different recipes. One's from Serious Eats, and one from I forget a site that another sous vide
With
site.
like some liquid smoke. and
Yeah,
shit.
so you
Oh my
liquid
God.
smoke and molasses, and you like baste it, or you like make this like sticky sauce, and you put it on it to marinate it. You sous vide it, and then you put it more on and put it in the oven. I didn't know what I was doing, but man, like it was incredible. We just kind of
Stupid.
picked at it, and it was this giant.
It was
Man,
like-
I don't think I've ever even told you. Like, I legit think about that probably like once a month for sure. I'm thinking about, God damn, when they made that brisket, I got to get that recipe.
It
I
was
have
like
to make that brisket.
Animal Planet. That was a yak on the safari, and we're a bunch of just lions just nibbling at
Oh,
that thing
just
all day.
jumping into it.
But it was black, and it also was like at the perfect point of still having integrity, but like melt in your mouth.
It was so just like buttery delicious, just
So fucking good.
tender and tasty.
And I tried it like 3 weeks later again, and some parts of it were pretty close, but the rest of it was a little dry, and I've never tried it again. And I don't
Hey.
know that I could recreate it because I did. I used two different recipes that I don't know if I remember, and I kind of like did different things from them.
I'll
Whatever
tell
you did, you need to figure out that magic.
it's
'cause
lost.
That was
It's lost
beautiful.
in time.
brisket. Like in this movie, they have the guy from Franklin Barbecue come out, and he's
Aaron
the guy.
Franklin?
Aaron Franklin. He's the guy that they talk to, and
Yeah, those
he
legit
barbecues the meat.
blackened briskets.
So that shit is super legit. I tried to make a brisket not too long ago. I've been smoking meats for a while, and holy shit, difficult to do the brisket. My brisket came out a little dry. I was a little upset about it, but
It was really good, dude.
But bro, no, what I'm saying is I've had some brisket and I'm like, oh my God, this is the best shit I've ever had. And mine was like, okay, this is meat. You know what I mean? Like, but what I'm saying is like those guys that can do that good, like that
It's
is
unbelievable.
just such a science, right?
That it's controlling heat. How the hell do you control heat and know like fire and coals, and you're up
On
you know,
such a
your
large
sleep,
scale,
your
too.
sleep patterns it's all centered around the meat.
So our local, for a long time, we had no barbecue anywhere in this part of California that was even reasonable. And then literally down the road, like of all places, I mean, not a mile from where we're sitting, right up on the train tracks that you're always hearing, is Slick Fork Barbecue. And our boy Kevin, who went to school with us,
K-Wax, if you will.
K-Wax. yeah.
Wax doing that Texas barbecue.
And, dude, it's incredible. The brisket sandwiches there are as good as anywhere I've had outside of like the best stuff in Texas.
Their barbecue sauce
It's
is
very good.
off the hook.
And
And
legit-
they don't sell it, the assholes.
We were talking about
I just go steal it.
we were talking about football food, and so for the Niners games the last few weeks, we've been getting together with some friends and doing some like kind of themed food additions. And so when they played the Cowboys, we definitely got that Texas barbecue from Slick Fork and got a big old slab of ribs and some brisket and the loaded mac and cheese. That's just stupid good. The mac and cheese is great. Like I'm so happy that's just 15 minutes down the street from my house.
It's amazing. Like you drive by it and now like Houston, it's like you drive down Santa Fe and it's the smoke. Like one of the first things you hit is like, if it's Thursday through Sunday,
get
it's
that
the smoke
smell.
from Slick Fork.
Used to smell like a smelly ass dairy plant right next door, but now it smells like delicious barbecue.
Yeah, that carnation like old creamery that used to be there is still reeking.
So let me take a shot here. I guess I would want to ask. If I want to ask.
Oh, hey,
Favreau-
John.
Hey John. You're
Hey,
still
John.
here?
You're still here, John?
Oh Jesus!
So,
You scared me.
so I guess I want to like ask him if my interpretation, because as I said earlier, right, my take on this is that the movie, the storyline is secondary, right? You could be tricked into thinking that this is sort of like a father-son thing, and I just think that's wrong altogether. I think that's a device to move us from one thing to the other, but I also don't entirely think that like it's themeless or that it's like there's not meaning and it's just truly like a piece of cake experience. I think, there's some commentary here about like what food means and about what it means, what it can mean, or like the diversity of what it can mean to like really appreciate food. And, for me, right, the major contrast and like tension in the movie is actually that he goes from what is clearly like a very stuffy, very, very foodie type restaurant, that he's moved more and more into this, right, as the movie goes, and he's feeling super stifled by it. So he goes and he cooks a bunch of food that's still like, it's plated very pretty. The sauces are very sophisticated. It's clearly
Still pretty pretentious.
it's pretty pretentious, yeah. But then, right, like he goes back and he ends up falling back into this like food truck with super simple food that's obviously not super expensive, and it's accessible, and it's food that goes way back, and it's it's not plated or anything sophisticated like that. And for me, right, it's not that he's saying that that's better or that there's not a place for like food that's more high end and like expensive and more sophisticated, but that like all the different kinds of foods are I don't know, valid or like reasonable are important ways to experience food, and that like you don't just have to be stuck in that higher end. So I don't know. I wonder whether or not like that's an interpretation that he has, or that was a theme he's going for there.
Well, and when you go to places like that, and I haven't been to many places, as stuffy as like what you're talking about at the top of the movie. Even though I'm curious about what a place like the French Laundry is like, you have places that you're in a place that is culinary, in the culinary world is special. Like the setting is supposed to be special, but it depends on who's saying it's special, right?
I've got a good and appropriate French Laundry story when we're ready.
And then what I'm curious about, and I'd ask him, and it's same along lines with you, is like how important is the setting that you're in, whether it's an actual like restaurant like that, or the people you're around, the people you're cooking for, the people that are cooking for you. What's the most important? Is it all important? Is the experience of eating at a place like that? Like, because you watch Bourdain for years,
Right.
and he ate it everywhere. From a grandma's kitchen to all of the highest end places, and seemed to enjoy all of it almost equally, but there were times where he almost had a tear in his eye in the grandma's and was sentimental about the grandma's kitchen, but would definitely be able to appreciate both and could appreciate that the experience in the stuffy place had something that maybe the grandma's kitchen didn't, but that the grandma's kitchen clearly had something that all the stuffy kitchens could never get. So I would want to have a deep conversation with him about that. I don't know what you guys think about that.
It's like we talk about with movies, right? Like nostalgia plays such an important role in food as well as movies, as well as most like types of media and almost everything. Like my grandma used to make she would take like tri-tip meat and make shredded beef out of it with barely any spices, and it was just basically like, fall aparty tri-tip. And like it's been my standard for like shredded beef for my entire life. So it's all just goes back to what you can really like identify with and feel good with, right?
We did gringo tacos at my grandma's. It was just like ground beef and
my dad's favorite,
like olives and onions. Like your toppings were just like, and it was like
yellow cheese, cheddar cheese.
Oh yeah, cheddar cheese, and we still do that at my house all the time, just because it gets that feeling back of those little Sunday dinners.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's exactly the same, and that's saying that like I have a weird thing because like I moved out of California and lived in a different part of the country for a while, where I essentially refused to eat Mexican food because I was like, they only serve like ground beef tacos and they think this is it. And somehow going to a restaurant where I've grown up here to expect like really good carne asada and carnitas, and I'm like, no, that's what you eat in a restaurant. That's real Mexican food. But at home, we never had that. That's still when I go down to my parents' house, like, we have taco night. It's fucking great. It's ground beef, man. It's like the stuff out of the
and it's McCormick
taco, the McCormick taco seasoning.
And that. So you guys ready for my French Laundry story?
Yeah,
you guys might have heard it, but it's pretty.
You just told me the story, and it's spectacular.
I was so jealous of this.
So
it made me sick.
So a few years ago, so I grew up, like all you guys, certainly not poor, but very middle class. I mean, we would never have gone to a place like I don't even think my parents knew about.
So French Laundry, so people know, is an expensive restaurant in Napa, like $1,000 a meal, right?
Yeah, I mean
Thomas Keller.
Yeah. It's one of the most like expensive and well regarded restaurants in California and
in
the country.
The world.
Yeah. And so I'm just kind of tagging along with a buddy of mine who is sort of in a high profile job, and he had
future congressman,
and he had so I'm tagging along with him a few years ago to Napa, where he's going to go, and like they've rented out a restaurant. I don't know where, but I just know that he's picking up the hotel room, and I'm tagging along. I'm going to meet my cousin for dinner. So on the way, we're like 5 minutes from the hotel, and he goes, "Hey, where are you guys going to dinner?" I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Well, maybe I have a couple spots at the place we're going." And I was like, "Okay, well, where is it?" He goes, "That's the French Laundry," which means nothing to me. So I called.
Nate's like, sounds shitty, but okay.
I was like, I don't really know
laundry.
I don't know. Is it smell like a laundry or?
Yeah.
So I call my cousin, and she like shrieks over the phone because she knows all about this shit. So Holly's like, "Yes, we're in for the French Laundry." So I'm like, "Great."
She knew exactly what you were talking about.
It'd been on her list for like a decade and been dying to come. Go. You can't even get reservations at this place.
So all of a sudden, you're the coolest cousin in the world.
Coolest cousin in the world. So, and it's like all paid for. It's free. It's like all the courses. It's all the wine. It's all the cigars. I mean, they rented the whole place out. Okay, but here's the problem. We roll in to the hotel at like 4 p.m. and we don't eat dinner. We're not even going to the place until like 6:15, and I'm fucking starving. So I'm like, look, I'm not waiting.
And Nate gets hangry, folks. If you know what hangry means, he gets very hangry.
And I'm not waiting to eat some small plate bullshit at your laundry place for 2.5 hours.
Your fucking laundry
There's a
restaurant.
taco truck right there in that bar parking lot, and I'm going to go get myself a burrito. Okay. And like I've grown, and you're like, burritos are like go-to food, right? So I go over to this, and I'm like, yeah, whatever your big old carne asada burrito is, load it up and give it to me. So he gives me the burrito. I roll back over. I'm eating my burrito, and I'm pretty stuffed. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. So I'm thinking, but I'm like, there's plenty of time, right? Well, no, like we get to dinner, and it's like 7 now, and I'm sitting down for the 12-course French Laundry meal, but I'm still like,
you're burping up cilantro and onions.
But I also thought it was a particularly good burrito, and so probably as obnoxiously as I possibly could have been. Every course comes out, and I just verbally start comparing whether or not this course is better than the taco truck burrito. My God. So, like, the people that know me are laughing. Everyone else, I assume, was horrified. And we finally get like maybe 6 or 7 courses in, and there's this little eye of ribeye that like it's all it is. It's like the size of like a silver dollar, and I put that thing in my mouth, and I'm finally like, that's the best thing I've ever eaten. That's better than the burrito. And you know, like, but I will say that, like, you know, throughout the dinner, like, I actually don't think that in terms of like pure, like, how much do I like to put it in my mouth, any other thing was better, like, than a bite of that burrito. But it was all obviously more interesting, right? Like, I still remember a ton of the different stuff that I ate there, and it was like stuff that I'll never eat again. Stuff.
To be clear, you still ate all of it.
Oh, I ate every bit.
And if
Okay,
you were
just making sure.
starving, would it have changed if you were starving going into the French
it's hard
Laundry?
to know, but I guess I think yes, in the sense that like probably some of it would have been a little more like it would have been smarter for me to enjoy the complexity of that food a little more, not still have that asada in my mouth.
So I have
That's like going to like a wine tasting. You got like the box wine on your shoulder, and you're like taking sips. And like, it doesn't compare to this yet.
Couple tall cans in
A
your
little
back
sweet,
pocket.
a little extra sweet. So yeah, I mean, but I guess for me, you know, the story in the context of the movie is the important contrast, which is like, you know, the sometimes food is just about like what feels like home and what feels like childhood and what just fucking tastes good when you put it in your mouth, and sometimes it's about like the experience of having something that's like so complex and so interesting and different that, you know, it's just a new experience like any new experiences. Not all new experiences are like the coolest, like shit you've ever done, but it's different than the things you've done before. And like, I guess for me, I think food plays both roles, right? And you know, and a lot of times, right, I think we kind of fall too heavily into one camp or the other.
Oh yeah.
Nice job, Zach.
You just fucking shit
Sorry,
on
dude.
my shit.
no, I didn't, dude. I was giving you the intro. It's like Scott was gonna be like, "Oh yeah," then you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah."
Brad,
welcome back."
that's gonna piece together so nice.
I think it will.
post.
I think we're gonna be good.
Oh, that's good. All right, so hey, we're kicking Favs out. Thanks, Favs. We talked a lot about not you or the movie. Thanks
for coming by, Favs.
during that portion.
Cool.
But we got some way more important people here with us, some special guests returning. Just magician of all things hop related, Walter coming back to the pod, and his wife Kendra are here. Brad's old friends, and Brad, I'm going to kick it to you for in-depth intros.
So, you know, it's like when you start enjoying the fact that your little small town has a local brewery, you tend to just show up and be like, man, I'm going to start drinking some beers. And then you start drinking the beers and you realize that those beers are starting to get really, really good. And you're like, okay, who's making these beers? And you're like, oh, wait a sec. This is somebody I actually kind of have a little bit of a relationship previously to. So, and you're just excited. You're like, oh my gosh, I know Walter's kind of backstory. And so knowing what direction his life could have gone and then deciding that, you know what, nah, I'm going to go find my passion, and finding his passion, it's just made me so happy because the guy makes excellent beer. He's doing well. He's got a lovely wife now.
Just to be clear, you mean when you say direction, you mean like prison, right? Like you're saying he could have been in San Quentin right now.
Well, yeah, no, I was thinking for sure. Like it was going to be a
he's from
rough
Richmond.
time.
Yeah.
I mean, Richmond, yeah,
I
it's
feel
big,
like-
man.
According to you guys, is just going to give him lobster and all sorts of delicious shit at the night.
No, but I mean, like it's just the fact that when you see somebody who's found exactly what I think they're meant to do, and they're doing it so well, and they're just also just absolutely willing to share that with scumbags like us and other folks. It's just awesome. So Walter, Kendra,
Amen.
thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Welcome, guys.
So Kendra, I want to hear a little bit also because we got that good introduction about what Walter's doing, but I want to hear about your background because we're talking about chef this week. And none of us know anything about food other than the shit that we try to cook in our kitchens, which occasionally like.
Excuse me. I think I've worked in a restaurant quite a few years.
Yeah, Brad worked at a chain restaurant for quite a few years.
As did
Hey,
I.
I mean, all the good ones start that way.
So tell us a little about what you do and your relationship to food.
Yeah, so right now I am the front of house manager at Food Fix Butcher and Baker in downtown Modesto.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you guys have had the truck at the brewery a handful
Yes.
of times.
Delicious.
One of those pretzel rolls.
And I gotta say, I got kind of clued into a kind of a secret kind of off menu sandwich one time.
Oh, what is it?
And it's like the combination of basically a few of the sandwiches and
Mix Fix.
yes.
Yeah, and that's all you're gonna have. That's all you're gonna
So
find
go
out.
ask for that. At
Yeah,
Front
it's top
House.
secret.
Okay, mix.
Can you
fix at
actually
Food
go
Fix.
and ask for the
Yeah.
mix fix? Oh, that's
Oh, I'm doing that. Put that on the old agenda for tomorrow.
That's all I need to hear. I don't even need to know what's
It's
in it.
good. You're not going to be mad about it.
She's like, it's a Turkish delight sandwich.
Heavy on the rose water.
Chopped pistachios and hazelnuts.
It's suspended in gel, guys. It's really good.
Oh man.
A preview of our draft. A preview of our draft.
Oh,
Episode
sorry.
of The Office.
The timeline's way off right now.
Time is a flat circle.
Whoopsie. Yeah. So I've been managing Food Fix for almost 3 years now. In August, through all the wonderful and crazy things that the last 2.5 years have brought us. But I started working in restaurants when I was 15 at the good old Golden Arches and McDonald's. Did that all through high school, and I always say, you want your kid to be able to succeed when they're done, throw them in fast food, because you got to multitask, deal with all sorts of fun people, great moods, terrible moods, the whole gambit. But after that, I moved to Chico and I did pizza places and sushi and worked at a really awesome wine bar for like 7.5 years, and then moved down here because this guy, and started managing Food Fix.
So what I want to hear is, were you just like, were you like born like, I really like
I think
long
so.
black beards, or
Oh,
or
I thought we were going to go with food, but yeah, that too.
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we were talking about food. I'm talking about beards now. I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about
That's
long,
fine. It is a
luscious
luxurious
beards.
beard.
I mean, it's luxurious, right?
It is.
It's like it's like Troy Polamalu's hair.
No, it's the Sergio Roma. I always think Sergio Roma.
yeah,
He's got the same
he's
thing.
got kind of the
Sergio
same
Ramos.
shoulders too.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so what we want to know.
Wait,
'cause-
Walter's not Sergio Roma?
Spoiler alert.
You thought he was just using like this a fake name so that we would know,
All
oh, it's
this
actually
time, I
Sergio?
just thought that he was just here like as a
Found me
alias.
out.
That's why Nate was always winking at Walter like,
Yeah.
I know who you really are. I know you're there. I got it.
Yeah, that's why I was winking at him. Yeah, let's go with that.
So for 92% of you, that's the reliever for the San Francisco Giants like 15 years
Many
ago.
moons ago.
Anyways, so what I want to hear about is the love story between Walter and Kendra, because you guys were just married, and we know that because Brad tried to get Walter to do a podcast like on your wedding day or
Yes.
something along those lines.
Yeah, I think it was like the day before.
It was
And-
the day after, actually,
Yeah.
the day right after.
Yeah.
Walter's the nicest fucking guy in the world, and he was like, "Yeah, sure."
He's like,
I'll
let me
do it."
check. I need to check. I got to look at my schedule because I don't know what's going on that day. And we're like, okay, cool.
And then fast forward a couple months, and we're like, "Oh, Walter, we need you to do this and do this and do that." And he's like, "Dude, I'm going on my honeymoon like tomorrow." So first
Yeah,
of all,
it's okay,
Kendra,
you
thank
know.
you for putting up with our
Yeah,
bullshit. And second of all,
BBK or bust,
I
right?
want to know how you guys met in beautiful, Chico, California.
Yeah, so we met way back in the
The
summer.
true story about how you guys met.
Yeah, well, mayhaps, but we met in 2010.
2010. Yeah.
Yes, summer of 2010 at our buddy Evan's birthday party.
Yeah, he was a mutual friend that we didn't know was a mutual friend at the time, really. We were
Yeah.
just kind of all finding that friend group that
Best
we
way
were
to
in
meet
college.
somebody.
Yeah.
I just started working with a really good friend that introduced me to Walter, actually, at a amateur baseball league up there. I was running concessions, and she was one of my staff members, and Chico's Chico, so you'd find a new fun backyard party to go to every time you get a chance. And that one happened to be Evan's birthday. And me and Walter hung out, and
Yeah, we were.
just
We just kind of
never
became
really
good friends.
stopped, I guess,
Yeah.
after that.
We our core friend group in college was myself, Kendra, and three other guys, Jeremy, Dan, and Spencer, with a bunch of other
Yes.
friends that were pretty close and always kind of doing things with us, and we would do things with them, and so we were around each other all through college as friends, hanging out. Once I turned 21, going out with everybody because I was the last one in our friend group to
He
turn
was the
21.
baby.
So I got left at the house when everyone decided it was time to go to the bar. a lot
Real
of the
sad.
time.
Oh, he was sad, and he let you know about it
And
too.
Kendra was like, "Peace. See you later."
Yeah, and then just after college and years of being friends, it kind of just lined up to
yeah.
where we were both
Kind of
like,
came into a spot where it worked out for.
Oh wow! So it was
Both
like a
ways.
long time friendship that evolved into a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't
That's the
start.
way to do it,
We
though.
didn't start like dating until 2018.
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we've
Yeah.
been officially a couple for that
4-ish years.
yeah, that long now.
And wait, how long? So how long had you known each other before that?
Since 2010,
8 years,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
just really good friends, and
I missed the 2010. Yeah, that's really cool.
Okay.
And then the coolest part of the whole story is that we had Walter out for the pod 2 days after his wedding. He's like, I can't do it the day after. I gotta do it 2 days after. And so
Got things to do.
So he rolls up with a growler, and he's like,
Yeah.
I got some beer, And
they're
we're like, cool. He
delicious.
brought some beer. Walter's a great brewer. And he's like, yeah. We're like, what's it called? And he said, well, it's called,
To
hop and to hold. And
Yeah.
we're like, that's kind of a weird name, Walter. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, it's like leftover beer from my wedding. And I'm like, wait, he made the beer for
We
his
made
wedding.
the beer.
You
Yeah,
made it
Nate
together?
was like-
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
came in and helped me with it.
Nate was like, that
together.
must have been cool like a few months ago, right? And he was like, no, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it was
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was super cool being able to be a part of the beer process. That was the first one I had ever brewed with him. I'd
Oh, that's
come and I'd helped every now and again with things, but I'm usually working myself. But that was super fun. And then I actually painted the little hop that was on the label, and that
Yeah.
got to go on there too. So it was
It's a
it was
very
cool.
cool label.
Your
Very
husband
cool label.
proudly told us about
Yeah.
that on the
Oh,
last
yeah.
pod. It's freaking awesome.
100%.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
so I have 2 questions. Can I ask? They're kind of related, but you've worked. So it sounds to me like you've worked in a ton of different food venues, right?
Sure
So
have.
you talked about everything from McDonald's to concessions at a baseball park to sushi and pizza, and now you work at Food Fix, which is a place that serves a mix of different kinds of food, really interesting food, but sort of down to earth stuff. What's the favorite place you've worked and why? And then after you tell me that, what's the very favorite food? What's the thing that, of all the places you worked, the thing you wanted to eat the most?
Oh,
You're like, after every shift, I'm going to have the.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I want to know which was the environment you liked the best and why, and then I want to know what the dish is.
gosh. Well, my favorite job is probably the wine bar that I worked at for 7 years, because
Okay.
that was just awesome.
Well, what was awesome about it?
I mean, we got to we had I think 75 wines available by the glass. And, we had to know what we were talking about. So unfortunately, we had to try all of them, which, was
Sounds terrible.
rough, very rough.
And then you had to make up things to say. It has a really oaky finish. But
Yeah.
It's very jammy.
It's very,
Yeah.
it's very fruit
And,
forward.
and wine people, they love doing weird bougie stuff. So they'll they took us out and we'd go wine tasting and these beautiful vineyards for free, and they just would feed us. And I mean, it's hard to be upset about that,
Sounds pretty terrible.
Yeah. So, and that was cool and just a real awesome way to connect with everything.
That was called Wine Time in
Yeah.
Chico.
Yeah, it's Wine Time
They're
in
still
Chico.
open and thriving. And
They are 26 Lost Dutchman Drive. Just saying.
yeah, if you're in Chico, go
Oh,
ahead.
so
There's an
weren't-
advertisement.
It wasn't one of those where you were hoping that it would fall apart when you left. You were like,
No, it's
Okay.
good. And then Food Fix is awesome too. Hank and Ashley are crazy. I don't know if you've ever been to the restaurant and had their desserts, but Ashley is a genius with all things sugar and flour related. And Hank is just a beast too. It's when he gets really excited about making something, it's awesome to just watch him be super pumped, and then he wants to teach everyone in the restaurant how to do it, and it's well, we're working right now, big
trying
guy.
to do something.
Can you, it might not work right now, but we're trying. But they're both pretty awesome. And man, food that I want to eat all the time.
My answer to this question, I know it wasn't for me, but it popped in my head right away.
yeah,
I'll say
I
it
wanna
when
hear
you're
it.
done.
You take it.
I'll
I
say
already
it
know
when
what
you're
you're
done.
gonna say.
No, you take.
No, I'll let her go first.
Let's see. Oh my goodness.
We can kill time. We're good at killing time.
Hey, I'll say it. When I was at Outback, my stupid favorite meal
Oh, dude.
was getting the kid macaroni and cheese. It was just Velveeta and rigatoni, but it was that with their mild wings dumped on top. So it was the wings mixed with the macaroni and cheese, and that was my go-to.
And at
Whoa.
Food
No.
Fix, speaking of Food Fix, is it the pork strami? That sandwich with
So
on the pretzel bun is
Really?
yeah.
I
lights out.
think I think I know it. Is
Okay.
even in the middle of
A fillet of fish.
New Orleans
No, I'm
and
just kidding.
eating really good mac and cheese there. I wanted Food Fix mac and cheese.
Really?
It's so good.
Which
They do the
one?
breadcrumbs and the jalapeno and right.
I don't.
Because they
That-
rotate their mac and cheese. If you've never been to Food Fix, they have a few different ones that they.
Yeah, we
Okay.
do a jalapeno popper one, and right now we have a roasted red pepper and chipotle. Probably the nacho though. We've been slinging a nacho one.
A nacho cheese mac and cheese.
So it's like got smoked jalapenos, and then it's got crunch tortilla chips with taco seasoning on top.
Yes, please.
I could eat all that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we
then
should have probably
then I'd
prefaced
poop
this.
my pants.
We should have probably prefaced this pod saying like, if you're driving, like when you're on your way to lunch, or if you're a couple hours from lunch, like maybe don't listen to this right now.
Yeah.
Wait till you're full to eat this.
You're trying to go
All
to
right,
sleep.
so Walter, what's your answer?
What do you think I was going to say?
Oh, you're gonna say the spring rolls from Wine Time.
That's close. You're close. That's not it. So the restaurant that she was talking about in Chico one time, it was the stuffed Anaheim pepper. Yeah, the chef there, Lisa, is awesome. She's amazing, and she's really good at vegetarian and vegan things as well. That's not the kitchen isn't solely based around that, but she does a great job. And they do a stuffed Anaheim pepper with this cheese skirt, and the filling is it's
almonds.
It's almonds or walnuts.
No, it's walnuts. It's
like
her,
she makes
her dad's orchard trees. So it's the local walnuts, and she makes like this rich, delicious kind of meaty, but it's walnuts like.
It's like a walnut meat that the pepper's stuffed with, and it's spiced perfectly, in my opinion. That's what I would
Sorry,
say.
did you just say cheese skirt?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite.
Crispy fried cheese. skirt.
Are we talking about like cheese just like melted on a plate?
Just on
Yeah,
the
but it's,
grill
like,
under the
crispy.
pepper.
Yes.
It's like
So
crispy.
I have a
cheese.
question. How many of you
I love
have ever
cheese.
just taken cheese and
Yes.
melted it on a plate
Oh,
and
yes.
then like let it get kind of crispy and just eating it?
Yeah.
I think all of us are
Everybody's
raising our
hands.
hands.
All
Around.
lots of hands went up.
When I went through a phase where I thought that was what cooking was, and I did that a lot.
I don't
I got
think you're
so
wrong.
much shit for
It's a
that.
phase in the art of cooking.
I got shit for the longest time because I was like, "Oh, we should just take this mozzarella cheese and melt it on a plate and eat it with a fork, right?" And people
Yeah.
were like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, we eat it and then we poop,
That's-
right? That's what
Yeah.
we do." Right? And they were like, "No, bro."
Well, talking about the what did you call Gringo Tacos?
Yes.
So there's a restaurant in Chico that we both enjoy frequenting when we're there called B
Favorite.
Street, and they do a
Trashy
taco
fried
called
chicken tacos.
Trashy Fried Chicken Tacos.
And it's the only food that I crave every week and dream about on a regular basis. But it's too
She has her eyes closed.
She's full on ecstasy right now.
It's two delicious flour tortillas with this like house fried chicken, a wonderful cheese skirt, like freshly sliced jalapenos, pickled onions, and then this like creamy cilantro sauce. And it's just the greatest experience in the whole world.
It went completely silent in here
right now.
I have my eyes closed. Kendra was taking me on a journey.
I
was
have
just
pictures in my phone. I'll show you
Her
later.
hands were posed like she was gripping two tacos.
Why,
with her
why,
eyes
It's so good.
why do I get the feeling that those tacos are in Kendra's spank bank? I'm just
Oh, you're
just saying, just looking at her face. I don't think
tacos.
I don't think those
Walter.
pictures are yes.
I don't know if I've ever made her make that face, but
It's
I
so
hope I was
good.
close.
I just want to point out now that I'm putting a cheese skirt on everything I
Yeah.
ever cook. So ice
sure.
cream, cheese skirt. Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
All
So-
of us are just trying to allude to the cheese skirt. I love that so much. That sounds so delicious.
So Kendra, Walter, both of you guys have worked in restaurants, and when you watch the movie Chef, as far as the lingo, the camaraderie between the staff and stuff, did it resonate with you? Because I watched it last night for the first time, and I really was like, okay, there's so many little chef things that I'm picking out
yeah.
or restaurant things that I'm picking out that I just like, oh, that brings me back. That brings me back to like that whole restaurant experience. So how did you guys feel about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he says heard in that, half a dozen times, I think, too.
Yeah.
Which is just like general restaurant lingo for like
Educate me. I missed that.
heard,
entirely.
like HEARD.
Like I heard
like
that.
check,
or
like gotcha.
Basically,
Yes.
so like if I'm the chef and you're my sous and I'm like yelling, I'm like 3 cubanas now, you're going to say heard 3 cubanas. And it just means you're like, process it, moving on.
It's like it's the kitchen version of 10-4.
Exactly.
And we chef.
Well, all day is the one that
Wait,
stood
sorry,
out to
what?
me.
so that
'cause-
means
chef.
that there's
Yes.
that's how many
We
like
chef?
milkshakes
Yeah,
you're
like a
doing
burnt.
Yeah.
on all
Yes,
the
chef.
tickets. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have a bunch of waiters at a restaurant coming through, and they're all going to be putting up like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I've got this. So maybe at Outback where I was, it'd be like, okay, now that's the 7th bloomin' onion come in, so that'd be okay, 7 bloomin' onions all day. That means that's
Mm. All the
there's
tickets for the
all
line.
between all the tickets. There's 7 bloomin' onions that we need to be cooking right
Mm-hmm.
now, and so they're all in process.
So you guys actually spoke to the back of the house. because I worked in restaurants for years, and it was like you just put your shit in the computer, and then like you would only go back there if you wanted to like buy bootleg cigarettes from the guy in the back of his fucking trunk.
From the dishwasher.
Yeah,
It's always
literally.
the dishwasher.
I was at Outback prior to them going electronic, so it was.
Oh.
I mean, okay. I mean, you would put your stuff in, but it was all
But it
paper,
print a ticket and you take it over there.
all written tickets, all sticking them up.
We had the
different
Aloha. You
color
just put that
copies.
shit in there, and then
Yeah.
and then, like I said, literally you'd only go back there. This dude had like a trunk full of. It looked like Marlboros, but when you actually got the pack, it was like some other like name in Spanish. But
he probably rolled them at home.
The pack looked so.
He was, he was
Paper.
selling you
the
weed. Is
pack
what he was
looked
doing.
so legit.
It's probably selling you weed.
But yeah, no, I appreciated all the very realistic portrayal of a kitchen and what's going on in a restaurant. That was very cool.
I think Chef's pretty cool too, specifically for me right now because of his transition over to the food truck.
I was
too.
just going to ask that.
Yeah, and just like getting to see how both of those sides go too, because that's exactly what we do at Food Fix right now.
Now, do they prep a lot of the stuff at Food Fix and
All of
then
it.
and then it all goes into the truck?
Yep, we
and
just-
then they drive off.
Yep.
So what's the biggest challenge for the food truck to be able to serve really high quality food that you're proud of when you're in effectively a tiny rolling kitchen?
Well, we typically have it pretty set out where we're going right now. So like Wednesdays we're usually at Dying Breed, Thursdays we're usually at Last Call, Friday we're at Blaker, and so on. And so typically it's relatively regular, with those spots, unless there's a big soiree or something going on. So we can kind of figure out how much we need to prep for the restaurant, and more often than not, the places are close enough that if we run out of something, Hank can hop it over, or someone else can run it out to the food truck if
We do have a
SOS
lot of
happens.
like cool spots for food trucks to pull up now, like
Yeah.
within the past like 4 or 5 years, right? There's a bunch of stuff that's popped up where they're like, we're doing cool drinks or
Well, and
alcohol or whatever it is, and we need someone to come in and bring the food. Right?
Well, and I think food trucks, because of movies like Chef 2, are just becoming more of a staple in especially small towns that want more than just like the same 2 restaurants over and over again.
I literally so I no hyperbole here, guys. Like I am being dead serious. I eat at a taco truck every single day that I go to work. Monday through Friday, I eat at the taco truck
The same
every
one?
single day. No, I've got 3.
Okay, so you mixed up a little
But
bit.
I mean, that's the interesting thing, right? Is like, for years and years, food truck was taco truck. There was, at least
Yeah.
in this
Agreed.
area, I don't. And
To me, it
I,
still is. I've never really even had like anything other than Mexican food at a moving.
Well, I mean,
restaurant.
there's multiple different like interesting sources now, or different like sort of like setups, right? So, we're here in California in the Bay Area. They have Off the Grid, which is this like roaming. They have set places, but they also, I think, move around to different locations where they kind of have anywhere from a handful of food trucks that come together at an advertised spot to a regular place where they have dozens and dozens, and they've got literally every kind of food. I mean, it's the equivalent of going to like a gourmet, like food fair, or like county fair where they have all the different trucks or food booths, except all the booths are amazing.
Well, right.
Well, that's-
and
that's
these
the spot-
trucks are like they're selling only their best
Their
shit,
best stuff.
usually,
Yeah.
right?
And that's the spot where they show up in LA at the end in Chef.
Right.
When he pulls in there at the
And
end.
there's a bunch of trucks all around.
all
Yeah,
those
yeah,
trucks. That's like the hot spot right now.
Well, and back to Roy Choi, like they planted that for Roy Choi because that was where kind of he like made his
Right.
planted his flag in the ground with Kogi.
Well, yeah, and you're gonna
They
do
kinda-
you're gonna do a limited menu, right? You're gonna do something.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
gonna do not everything that, like, especially if you have a restaurant as well. You're not gonna do everything off your menu, but you're gonna do your best items, and you're gonna do
Nice.
them well,
Right.
and that's what you're getting.
Things that complement each other.
And what's funny is I think there's a misconception that like taco trucks are cheap too, or like food trucks are cheap too. I mean, you're not going to get like a super cheap meal, but I mean, most of the ones that I get are fucking delicious, dude. Like you said, it's the all-star menu of the menu, right? Because you don't want to take something that's mediocre out on location.
Yeah.
Well, and like even in smaller venues, so like like you said, Food Fixes in Modesto, And they now have Grubhub in downtown Modesto, which is a permanent food truck place, which is genius, right? Because it's a spot that wouldn't have been used very well, and now they always have a bunch of food trucks. So my son and I kind of go on like a once a week kind of food, not like date, but like kind of outing. And we've been going to the Grubhub a bunch lately, and like we've been going to. There's like the.
Have you had the pupusa one yet?
Yes.
It's always closed when I go. So I've been on the pretzel train lately. Twisties has been really good. Like just the straight up normal.
He sent me a picture of a pretzel he was eating the other day. He's like, "Look at this fucking thing. It looks so delicious."
And the other one is so he's been going to the Sweet Lab, my son, and like getting the like little, and they're like incredible dessert creations that are just in like on the menu. They're all of them are really interesting. Like the kind of thing that if you went to a restaurant in a big city that was like known for interesting, cool desserts, you'd be stoked to see that on the menu. And they've got 6 of them at this food truck in a fairly small city. So, I mean, I guess my point is just it feels to me like the food truck option, because you don't have to have the same level of overhead to be able to do it, and you can have a smaller menu that you're really focused on, in some ways like allows people that have interesting but really niche ideas for food to kind of bring that to areas and not have to be bound to one location where they could live or die on that location. They can move around. So I kind of wonder whether or not like the food truck itself is like a part of it, the evolution, not just the way that food's served, but maybe the evolution of the kind of food that you might have available in lots of markets, right?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of the explosion of food trucks is the explosion of creativity in food. I mean, you don't have to have 2,000 square foot restaurant that you're paying rent on with a kitchen and as much equipment and as much staff. So you can take that, shrink it down, cut your overhead hugely, and be just as creative. So someone who may not have had the means to open a full-fledged restaurant can now still serve the food that they're passionate about and that they care about in more locations, because you're not stuck on 1st and Main Street. You're at 1st and Main, and then 3rd and Main, and then you're down on Poplar and Oak, and you're just going everywhere you can to share this. So I think that's a big plus to the creativity of the food, as well as the access, not just for us, but for restaurateurs who maybe not be financially available.
The culture that's been created from movies and food shows and everything, and this boom since 2014 and that range, right, with Bourdain leading into this movie and people being open to go into those food truck places and trying 2, 3, 4 places and food that they maybe wouldn't have.
And we cannot forget the idea of social media being such a huge part.
Right.
When Instagram, and you see those pictures that, like I said, the first time I made birria is because I saw it on Instagram, this video of this taco truck in LA. I was like, that looks great. I don't think I'm going to LA anytime soon.
Hey, fuck
I need to figure out how to make this.
Well, and that's one of the things that I love about Chef, actually. And if we're talking about something that's a device that really carries through the movie, that's not the food, it's the social media, right? Right. It's the funny way in which like you create the tension that pushes him out into the food truck with the whole, Twitter.
Because dude, what is funnier than a boomer trying to use Twitter?
Accidentally sending that shit.
Like, you think you're cool because you have knuckle tattoos? Use this fucking social media platform to see how
I
cool
was
you are.
messaging him.
Yeah.
No, you sent that out to the world.
Brad was loving those animated birds.
And then the kid,
I
right?
dig it.
When you really think about it, the kid, right, is the whole. I mean, none of that ever happens without the kid being able to be basically functional on Vine and Twitter at the time, right? Which is Vine probably.
Well, to show
TikTok now.
like the ignorance of like the adults, and like they're talking flash mobs in Twitter, and like to see Leguizamos and his buddies, and like because the kid's one that had it figured out.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if it was flash mobs. Were they not?
2014 is about the right. That's about
that
the
little
right.
pocket for flash mobs.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's when you guys were flash mobbing,
That's
right?
the
I mean, I was
flash
flash
mob
mobbing all over the place.
2014, 15.
But I think like when you think about what food trucks are now, how do they get out? I mean, how do they get their business other than the fact that you get social media? Like, it's not like, I mean, you talk about Last Call, right? I follow Last Call and I see and pay attention to what food truck is there, right?
Yeah.
What beers are coming out. But that's the way I'm all of my access to what food is around and what beer is around and what things are going on now is not because I'm reading a newspaper. It's not because I'm hearing an ad on the radio, or not because I'm driving by. It's
Or you
because
see the sign on a restaurant or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Like and so it's that avenue, right? Using new media as a way to be able to take advantage of the fact that now you don't have to have that fixed location that everyone learns about over time. You move, and every single day, the same exact audience knows exactly where you're at.
Yep.
which is killer. And the barbecue place out of Houston has a truck too, and they post every day on the
Where they're
social
gonna
media
be.
exactly
Look for
where
it.
they're going to be. It's freaking awesome.
The Tri-Tippery is a local one that's
Yep.
great. They have the same kind of deal.
Yeah, I've never eaten Slick Fork out of the restaurant, but I've probably had it 20 or 30 times because
So
their truck is at Dying Breed or at our spot. And it
Oh, they
moves
go
around.
to
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
dude.
That's the only way I've had it, but I've never been to their restaurants. But I know their food's killer because of the truck.
That's great.
To like end it at Chef and you guys first of all, you guys liked the movie Chef. Did you guys
Yeah.
like it?
Loved it.
Now, as far as there's a lot of dishes that are shown in Chef, do you guys have one that just immediately that's the one that looks most delicious to me in that movie?
You gotta want to have that cubano, I think. right?
Okay, the Cubano.
Like that's the one.
Okay.
Nick, are you trying to pump Walter, who's going to be our judge on the first day draft information?
I just want to know. It's a fair question. It's a
wants to know.
relevant
It's a
question.
fair
It's topical.
question.
That's what we do at this
if
pod.
this
We don't
was
do
a-
anything
If
else.
you're a cheater, it's a fair question.
If this
People
was a
wanna
Christopher
know.
Nolan movie that goes backwards, we haven't done the draft yet, and Walter's about to divulge really secure information to Nick. Here we go.
As he was sitting.
I think
It's like Memento.
I think in that movie the Cubano is probably definitely up there, but something that Favreau didn't make, I forget his character's name other than Chef, but that he
Carl.
didn't. Carl, sorry, yeah, Carl, that he didn't make, but that was in the movie that I was mouth watering over were the ribs at Franklin's and the brisket at Franklin's when they're coming back across the nation.
And he's got that like pocket knife. That
Oh,
he's carved.
yeah,
And
yeah.
something somehow everything tastes better when you carve it with a Swiss Army knife. You know what I'm saying?
And I'm also curious is that just his brisket cutting knife, or does he use it for other things? Does he have a knife for the ribs and then a knife for?
Then he's at home
You know?
opening his Amazon
Yeah.
packages at the same time.
He wipes that blade on his jeans and moves on with his
This
Yeah.
was pre-COVID. You could do whatever the fuck you wanted.
Right.
But it's definitely the brisket, and that's what I think is the thing I want to eat the most out of that movie. When I go back and watch it.
I like that answer.
good call.
I want to lick Aaron Franklin's brisket knife too, Nate. Thank you. That's the most delicious thing that looks like in the movie to me too.
Yeah, that's the one thing we didn't really indulge in on our honeymoon trip, just because we weren't really in an
Barbecue.
area known for barbecue.
Yeah.
But we stopped in a couple airports in areas known for barbecue, and you can't get the same kind of barbecue in an airport, obviously. So we weren't able to
It's
taste
pretty good though.
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
in Texas, if you were in Texas, the barbecue is
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
I once scheduled a long layover in Dallas just so I could go get brisket. And I legit left the security,
That's amazing.
rented a car with my wife, drove to the best brisket place and ate my first Texas brisket, and then drove back to the airport.
Did you shed like one solid tear?
It was a
It
single
looked like
tear
barbecue
moment,
sauce.
and it dripped onto the brisket before I ate it.
And then
it
there's
tasted
just a little steam.
little
He was like,
extra
"This is
salt."
salty."
Yeah. Okay. Just real quick. So you went to New Orleans for your
Yeah.
honeymoon.
Yeah,
which
we
we
did.
tried our best to interrupt, but God damn it, Walter. So favorite thing you ate in New Orleans?
Let's hear like you got like a top 5. Let's hear some of those items that you
My-
guys praise because you go to New Orleans, you got to get the food. And just real quick side note, I went to New Orleans
is a
in
great
college
story.
with some friends, and it was 6 of us living in one little dingy hotel room on Bourbon Street, and we did the whole Bourbon Street thing. We partied hard. Like it was like those 5 in the mornings, and then waking up about noon and talking about what we did, and then just going back out and doing it again. But one night for dinner, everybody's like, oh, this is about day 3. They're just like, well, we're going to go. Like, oh, there's that TGI Fridays across the street. And I just looked at him. I was like, whoa, wait. TGI Fridays? It's like, y'all know where
Yeah.
Scotch would have gone to New Orleans. He would have gone to TGI Fridays. But they're like, yeah, we're just going to go to TGI Fridays. I'm like, guys, I'm not going to TGI Fridays. Like, no, dude, come on. Let's just go. We'll go to TGI Fridays and we'll go back out, blah, blah, blah. End of story. I said, you guys have a great dinner at TGI Fridays. I'm going to go off, find my own little spot. I went off, found some little hole in the wall spot that had just a delicious oyster po' boy, and it was bomb. And they went to TGI Fridays. So
I had
I
the
just
wing zingers and oyster poppers, man.
We got the chicken skins, the potato skins, Brad.
I was like, all you can eat apps, $10. What?
If we were in Outback, would you have went just to have some of that mac and cheese?
He for sure would have been there.
I will say for tradition's sake, we got when I was in Vegas this last September for a football draft, fantasy football, and we got Outback just because it was our Outback crew. For nostalgia's sake, we got some Outback appetizers and stuff to feed us during the draft.
I'm not afraid afraid of a blooming
the blooming onion to my room.
That's right. Just the smell, though. It's just that nostalgia of the smell. Like just going into an Outback and just like, oh man.
All right, so you guys got some top dishes.
So let's get that top
we-
5
we
New
ate-
Orleans dishes.
We ate
we ate
good.
Besides
really good.
TGI Fridays.
When we were just a quick side note, when we were on the way back to the hotel for the last night before we flew out the next morning, we were talking about the trip, and Kendra asked me what my favorite part of it was, and the only answer I could give for the number one favorite part was just the food in general, all of the food together. It's really hard to pick, I think, a single place that I enjoyed more than another or a single dish, but I think we've narrowed it down to a little bit of a top 5 we've got here.
Oh, the first
Between
one.
the two of us. So yeah, so five, I think we'll go 5-1.
Yeah.
That-
Start at the worst.
Yeah. So
Not the
by
worst.
no means is this the
Wow,
worst.
so this one's number 5.
It is. It
Go.
is. So okay, I'll say number 5. Number 5, we went and had lunch at Commander's Palace, which is a very highly regarded, highly
Michelin
respected
star.
Michelin star restaurant in New Orleans. And we had lunch there, and our dessert, I think, is number 5, the bread pudding with the sauce that they put over it. It's just so
Bring this like
oh,
creamy rum.
it's so
sugary
good. It's so
goodness.
good. So that's
And
number 5, the bread
And then
pudding
they
at
pop
Commander's
it.
Palace.
They pop the top
Oh
of it,
yeah,
and then they
it
drop
all
the,
falls
like,
into the sauce.
They pop it.
Yeah.
It comes out like a souffle almost.
Yeah, it looks like a little
okay.
pillow.
Yeah, and then they break it up and,
And then
and then they put the sauce.
And they drizzle?
Oh, they drizzle.
I'm a
They
big fan of
drizzle. The guy had a good drizzle on him too. It was awesome. that was number.
Dude was
That was number 5.
drizzling.
Number 4. Want to go number 4?
Number 4, I'm going to veer off that, and I think you're going to agree with me. I think you're going to agree with me.
We worked
Correct me
so
if I'm
hard
wrong.
on this list.
So hard. But we went to this amazing place called Toops Meadery in Mid-City, I believe, right?
I think that's where it was. I don't remember.
And they had just the most delicious Brussels sprouts I've ever eaten.
Okay, that's a
so
good
how
call.
were the Brussels
That's a
sprouts
good
prepared?
call.
Were they broiled?
They were like,
No, they were fried.
they were fried
deep
Brussels
fry?
sprouts, but they were small. Like they weren't big ones. They were like the
So-
little guys.
I went somewhere recently and for the first time had those really small ones, and they were the deal.
Oh, they're
They
delicious.
were amazing
Yeah.
with like a balsamic reduction, I'm assuming.
There's-
Was
I think
on
there's like
it.
a balsamic chili sauce or something
Uh-huh.
they had on there. And so Toops Meadery was the name of that place. And Isaac Toops is the chef there. He's the restaurateur. He was on Top Chef. And I remember watching him on the show and loving his personality, loving all the food that he put out, or at least looking like I loved it. I never got to try it. So I wanted to go to this place, and we got to go. And we actually walked in, and he, unless it was a really good doppelganger, was just sitting at the bar having food
Yeah.
during this happy hour that we walked in on. So that was kind of cool. We brought back some spice rubs from there too. So that was number 4.
Quick
Brussels
side
sprouts.
note: did you guys know that in Oakdale, at one point, we had a Top Chef contestant had a restaurant in Oakdale?
I did not.
No, I did not.
So where Pho 35 is right now, down in the little sunken,
Yeah.
there was a woman who was on Top Chef, and she started. It was like a Southern kitchen. I went there a couple different times, like chicken fried steak and stuff like that. It was just super soul food stuff, delicious. And then she left. Like I don't know. Oakdale didn't support her very well, and she ended up leaving. But we had a Top Chef
Oh, that's a
contestant
fun
who had a
fact.
restaurant in Oakdale
What a bummer.
for like a quick
That was
minute, for like a
delicious.
year, and it was it was so damn good. It was delicious.
That sounds awesome. All right, so number 3, once again, the lunch that we had at Commander's Palace. This, I guess I said it was hard to pick one, but we clearly picked one place that had a lot of the best food. But
I mean, Commander's Palace is
Yeah.
famously amazing.
So good.
the entree that I ordered was their, I think it was a double cut pork chop that came with these grits. This is the thickest pork. It's a
Cheesy
12-ounce
grits.
pork chop.
Oh yeah.
Huge.
Bone
It was
in,
cooked
just like-
perfectly. It was nice and juicy. It was. Oh, that's number 3. That was really, really good. That was
You got a
amazing.
little crab meat added on top.
Yeah, a little poached
wow.
crab over the top, champagne or
Ew.
prosecco poached crab over the top of it. Is great.
Was
Number
so
2.
good.
Want to go number 2?
You can do number 2 because I really want to do number 1.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. Number 2 then is once again at Commander's Palace. The lunch there, the blue crab and Meyer lemon gnocchi. It's a little starter dish. It was soft shell crab. It was so good. It was rich and tangy from the lemon, and it was really good. That
Gnocchi's
was good.
tough too,
Yeah.
huh, Nick?
Mixed in with the gnocchi.
Yeah, with the gnocchi.
There was
Nice-
only like 2 actual
that's all.
gnocchis in there, but they were bigger ones.
Yeah,
and
it
then
was-
it just had like this delicious like white gravy
But
sauce.
It was great.
but
Gnocchi's my jam. I
gnocchi
love
done right is just
Yeah.
like the most delicious, like
It was-
mouthfeel.
It was so
really
Little
good.
pillows
yeah,
of
dude,
goodness.
so good.
It was really good. The one that she swapped out just before she gets to number 1 were we had charbroiled oysters at about 6 or 7 different places, but there were ones that we had at Royal House it was on Royal Street in the French Quarter. Those were probably both of our favorite charbroiled oysters that we had at any of those places. And then we had beignets at Cafe Du Monde, and I just feel like you can't not mention that if you're talking about a New Orleans food list.
So I love that one in part because it's like the most touristy possible place there, and it's still totally exactly.
Does it live up to the hype?
100%. It's
you get this little bag with more powdered sugar than beignet in it.
And it's like
it's everything.
it's like they changed nothing but the size of the restaurant. You can imagine from whenever they started. And I mean, I'm sure there are other places you can get beignets, and I've had some beignets other places in New Orleans. They're the OG. They're really good. Nothing about it feels like it's over touristed. It's just
too hyped or
Yeah,
anything.
it's great.
To speak to how great they are and their consistency, we didn't even go to the original one in the French Quarter. We went to one
in City Park.
Park near the Museum of Art that we did that one day. We did that, and then we went to that Cafe Du Monde location, and it was I mean I never had the ones in the French Quarter, but if they were any better than that, I don't know how they could be. So
and beignets are like I didn't have one until I had many donuts in my life before I ever had a beignet, and they kind of talk about them like they're donuts, but they're kind of like their own thing. I mean, if you haven't had a beignet, I don't even know how to quite describe it. I mean, it's sort of donut-y, but it's like almost like the donut version of cotton candy. It's like
Well, there's also versions of like fried like Portuguese
in your mouth
breads that are like sugared that can be like lighter like that too.
Yeah.
That I would think are a little bit even closer. They're not over sweet. They're not like glazed, right? It's like it's the
just the
sugar
powdered
of that,
sugar, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Nate was talking about the Cafe Du Monde beignets. He was comparing them to Dos Equis, the green bottle. He was like,
it's
very,
close.
very similar.
Dos Equis lager.
The lager, like
Not- not the amber.
they just do that, just that consistent style.
okay,
It just
I was
melts
so
in your
lost
mouth.
on where you're going with that. This is
weren't here when we
definitely
talked about
You
that.
weren't here. This is an
Dip the
inside
beignet
joke.
in the lager.
yeah. This is an inside joke.
We were inside joking it. Our bad.
I'd love to be a part
Just to
of
fill
one of
you
those.
in, the inside joke is that Nate decided his favorite beer in the world was Dos Equis lager.
He said BVK IPA is number one, and then Dos Equis lager.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sorry, that's the only part of it. That's the
funny.
joke and the punchline. all
I
at
hear
one
ya.
time.
It's the whole picture.
Yeah, all
I
right.
want to hear what number one is.
Number one.
Okay,
Is
number
it
one.
savory at least.
It's
It
so
is.
good.
It
Okay, because all this dessert talk is
Kendra's
No.
about
killing me.
she's about to close her eyes
Yeah,
again. She's
I'm
going to the
gonna close
spank
my eyes
bank. She's
again.
going to the spank bank.
Yes. Tacos, Walter, number one in New Orleans. So we went to Cachon, which is one of the stops that Anthony Bourdain goes in one of his
trips to New
one of his
Orleans, yeah.
trips to New Orleans, and he raves about him there. But we had this, like, I think it was just called crispy pork belly.
That's all it was, yeah.
And it was probably 2 inches wide and 2 inches. It was just this giant
Hefty chunk of pork belly,
hefty
definitely.
chunk of pork belly, and it was just perfectly crisped and like savory and melt in your mouth. And it was over this apple butter that they made that was just wild, and it had super thinly sliced fennel on top, a little Italian parsley, and it was just
That was really
it
good.
was
Good God.
the most amazing thing I've ever had
That was
in my face.
one of the most perfect bites ever, because they crisp up the top of that like a delicious chicharron, and then the belly itself, the fat
Just
is
melts.
just melts as soon as it gets into your mouth.
Now,
So you
is
can
this
just
an
crunch it.
app or an entree? Like it's
It was
it's
an
an
app. It was an
appetizer,
appetizer,
for
but it
sure.
was very delicious. I don't know if I could eat much more of that because of how rich it was.
Yeah.
I think that little kind of 4 square inch cube was probably the perfect amount.
You guys have completely scrambled my brain to the point where I'm like, are we talking about a movie? I just want to eat all the food.
Can we start a food pod?
I mean, yeah, we could always take a road trip to New Orleans, and we'll get a little truck, we'll drive, and we'll do pods along the way.
You guys are gonna have
Yeah.
to tune in.
We'll do
for
like the
our-
opposite of Chef. We'll go out east and just pod along
We'll just
the way.
pop into Franklin Barbecue, and talk to
Yeah.
Franklin, and he'll take us out back.
Lick
and-
Franklin's knife.
Yeah.
just like we wanted to.
Can we lick your knife?
No. The pocket knife.
Oh man. Well, that was awesome.
Hey guys, tune in
man.
for our sister podcast. Kendra describes food because I think we've got a winner here.
Yeah, if you wanted your ASMR
Actually, that
moment,
leads us into our ASMR moment. Exactly.
And if you want to connect back to the movie, if you want to see what Kendra's face looked like the entire time she was talking about food, just check in on ScarJo in the pasta scene in Chef. That's basically that's she was constantly
her eyes
biting her lower
closed.
lip, eyes closed,
I love
kind of
food.
getting squirmy and
So
uncomfortable.
much.
And if any of you have not been to New Orleans, I promise,
Yeah, you
get
gotta
out
do it.
there if you like food, and just don't go to TGI
And
Fridays.
fuck, you just learned about 4 places to go, right?
Yeah.
I'd say New York and New Orleans for me. Like, I don't know if there's two better food cities in the United States. I'm sure if you go worldwide,
Bourdain says it's the only place he would recommend to anyone have to eat is New Orleans. He says you can get great food all over the world, but that's the place you have to eat if you go there.
I agree.
And every single conversation I have with a local, I swear at some point the conversation ends up with somebody saying, "Oh, and that's some good eating." Like,
Oh, yeah.
just everybody loves their food down there. They all talk about food, and it's just all about just making you happy with food.
I thought you were going to say every conversation ended with like, what did you say?
Everyone down there is so nice.
Your Cajun accent is very confusing.
So before we let you go, Walter, Saturday night, man, it's the BVK IPA release.
Yeah, Saturday night.
You
So
designed the label.
I did. You guys saw the label.
Fucking killer, by the way.
Awesome.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
glad you guys like it. I'm glad you like it. You guys can release that on your Instagram probably sometime soon.
On our newly reinstated Facebook page.
Yeah.
We're out of
I
jail.
saw that. No, yeah, the label looks killer. I'm glad you guys liked it. I haven't told Brad this yet, but I had a pretty killer 60% off deal on some stickers. So I ordered some rectangle stickers that I broke that can label down into a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have those for you guys.
sick.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have the 60% off deal.
We felt 40% loved anyway.
But so those will be. I'll have those for you guys next week at the release. We're holding those cans until Saturday. So we've got a few other beers we're canning on that on Friday. That we are going to release when we can them, but we're going to hold the BVK till Saturday for the release.
So Saturday, you guys, the tap room in downtown Oakdale opens at noon, right?
We open at noon.
So you can get down there and you can start drinking all day, and we're going to roll in between 4 and 5. And Walter, you going to be there? Kendra, you going to be there?
Saturday.
The 5th.
Yes, I am.
She is.
All right.
So she'll be sitting in a corner booth just talking about food. If you just
Yeah,
stop
with my
by
eyes
and
closed
watch
and a
her.
little
Yeah,
drool
that'd be
napkin.
great. So we're gonna, so we're all gonna be there. Come down, check it out. It's gonna be a good time. I'm sure there's gonna be shenanigans going on.
Yeah, we're gonna have. I believe they're working on setting up Saucing It Up, the fried chicken truck that we
Yes.
have out there,
Yeah.
and I think your guys' buddy Scott's gonna play some
Scotch
music,
Beck's
right?
gonna play a little music. There's rumors that Zach's gonna jump on.
Possible.
You don't know.
Nate's gonna jump on.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows what might happen.
Who knows what can happen? That's
How
why you got to
long's it
come down
been?
and check it out.
How long's it been since Oakdale's seen a white guy rapping?
I don't know, but maybe they need it.
Since forever.
So I think they need a middle-aged balding white man to rap for them.
And then we can do the flash mob behind you.
Oh shit!
Bringing it back, baby.
2014.
We're bringing it back.
We'll tweet about it.
We'll get on the
Tweet
socials
about it.
with the flash mob.
Yeah,
right.
release on Saturday and the Friday before. You guys will be there for the can day, right?
We're gonna can it up, man. I can't
All
wait.
right.
We're gonna can it and crack it.
Hey, thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
All right, that's the nervous sharding from Zach as we move on to Shag Fart Body Bag. Sorry, Shag Snag Body Bag. And Bradley, we're going to start with you. What are you shagging from Chef?
So my shag is going to be just kind of food movies, foods that or movies that focus on cooking. I mean, it kind of connects to our draft. Restaurant films. I have connections to restaurants because I actually met my wife as I was working as a college student at a chain restaurant, Outback Steakhouse. That's where I met my wife. We were both college students. We didn't realize we were both going to the same college, but we both worked at Outback. And I just have so much love for my restaurant experience. Like, there's just so many things that I felt like it was a pivotal part of my life. I have a fantasy football league. We just went to Vegas for our fantasy football draft in September. And we've had our fantasy football league for 21 years. It's like, just these are the guys I still talk with. We have a group chat that we're always messing each other. And it was just a pivotal experience in my maturity as a human being, just getting to know people, getting to know the city I was living in. It was just, that restaurant was so key to so many parts of my life that I really give full respect to the the movie Chef, bringing out that restaurant experience, bringing in all the little details that restaurants have, little just keywords here and there, the all day and all this stuff, as we kind of were mentioned earlier. It's just all that stuff just brought back a lot of memories, and they were all positive. And so love this movie, and I love the connection it has to the restaurant industry. So there you go.
Love it. Nate, what are you shagging?
So I'm going to shag the Leguizamo in this. So there's a lot of great, like, sort of supporting roles. His is the biggest supporting role, clearly. And he's so... It's not just that he's good in it. I think he's good. John Leguizamo is good in everything. And, like, I don't know that I can think of a role where I don't like him. But I also think that there's something about... Like we talked earlier about the fact that the movie is kind of like this piece of cake a little bit. You know, it's all really positive. You really like it. It's really fun. And for me, like he in some ways is the brightest spot that keeps coming back and over. He's like, he embodies that because he's so positive. Like he rolls up, you know, he shows up for the food truck, you know, at the
It's like a guardian angel.
Totally. No, that's a great way to put it. Like he's all in. No matter what it is, you know, he's like full support, full positivity, full like comic relief. And so for me, like it's the funny, slightly less like, you know, straightforward version of the just all positive movie. So I love him. I want more of him. I'm all in on it.
Legs, Zachy.
I have a hard time believing that he leaves that job and goes cross country to meet up with Favreau.
But I think that's the on brand, right? Like there's a
Right.
lot of this is like, you know, contrived, and I'm like, if you're going to contrive, then give me the contrived Leguizamo.
And that's goes along with my theory that it's just a big fantasy by somebody that's working in a restaurant. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, and then my favorite guy from the restaurant,
fits,
he
yeah.
leaves
Yeah,
his
yeah.
job and like comes across the country and he works with me and we get along so good.
You must have hung up the phone the second we, you know, got on a plane the second we hung up the phone.
And he's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
just can't stay away from those
Like,
knuckle
great,
tats.
pays nothing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're not going to scare me. You're not going to scare me.
Yeah, first thing you show up, oh, help us clean. Come on. Okay. I am shagging a guy that I don't usually like, which is Robert Downey Jr. I'm not a huge Robert Downey Jr. guy, but man, he is so douchey in this, and I just fucking love like he just exudes
So
like
funny.
douchey smarminess, and his whole thing with the booties. So you have to put the booties on your feet.
Dude, the whole thing with the
It's so
secretary,
good, dude.
where
Dude,
he's
oh,
like,
yeah.
you think he's leading you into like,
And
I'm
he's
not
like-
sure if I'm the dad, and now all of a sudden he's mad that the secretary's a liar because he's a vasectomy.
Because he has vasectomy, and he's just letting her tell him some bullshit. Oh,
Let's
dude.
make some simple decisions. Let's put some swatches right here.
And it's so
Let's
funny
make
in
some
his
decisions.
his whole interaction with Favreau, where he like casually, he doesn't say that he slept with his wife again, but
He's like, I don't remember. It was just, you know.
exactly. He just like super casually, like, that's not a big deal, you know. I just maybe,
might
you
have.
know,
I
You were
things
with her,
happen.
then
you
maybe
know?
I fucked her. I don't even know what happened.
Oh, dude, it's so great. So I love that scene, and you know, it's like we were talking about earlier about people that come in for one day and just you know, as the Bill Simmons guys say, they're just throwing heat from the minute they get on the mound. You know what I mean? It's fucking great.
Love seeing Downey Jr. in that kind of part. He's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
perfect. Well, my shag, I stepped all over at the start of the pod, but it's Jon Favreau, kind of his relationship with Roy Choi, but just Jon Favreau and me seeing Chef Show enough to know how the dude just dives into everything like hardcore and how he dove into specifically being a chef. I think it shows. I think it's why it, you know, made the movie so likable and moves, you know, and why it's believable. How you see him chopping up that like zucchini as fast as he is, and you're like, those are stunt hands, and that's all like Favreau. Like in the beginning when he's prepping, like we're all obsessives here. Like we did the pod because when we do something, we all do it. Like
Yeah, we're all in on it.
yeah, we go dick first, and and Jon Favreau is no different. So props to you, Jon Favreau. I'm snagging you, buddy. All right, sweet. So we're moving on to snag. Nate, what you snagging, bro?
So the obvious choice here, not to step on anybody, is the food. But I wanted to go like a little bit more meta here. So I'm going to snag a movie that like celebrates over and over again transformative process. And we see this in tons and tons of different movies, but it's usually used as kind of like a little interlude in the movie. So we see this in movies, the sports movies all the time. It's the montage, right? We see somebody gain a skill, develop a physique, develop a, improve their ability, right? So we get this montage and we're entranced and we love this like transformation. We see it in movies sometimes where things are built like Life as a House is entirely based on this. Like we like to watch these processes of things being built.
I like that movie.
Yeah, I really like that movie too. It's underrated, I think. We see it in movies where there's makeovers, right? Like The Devil Wears Prada or Miss Congeniality or other like movies where
She's All That.
She's All That's a great one where there's this character that goes from like looking one way to looking a different way. It's this device that gets used in movies and we're kind of consumed by it. And when we step outside of movies, right, we see this is kind of the way that a lot of social media and entertainment is going, right? We nonstop reality television where you watch all these shows on all these channels about home renovation, about makeovers, about whatever. You pick your thing, and the entire show's basis is about like watching a transformation happen. If you go to any social media transformation platform and you see stories, you see TikToks, you see whatever, where you can't look away from like a table being built or a room being renovated or whatever. This movie for food and also honestly for the transformation of the food truck is like a movie that has a plot just to string together these series of like experiences that you get to watch happen. And so it's almost like it takes the best of, or maybe the nugget of the thing that captures people's attention in reality TV and social media and the things that they want to watch this experience. They want to step into this like transformative experience. And then it strings it together with a plot that's kind of good, with a bunch of actors that are really great, with a director that's really good, and with a topic, food, that literally everybody can relate to because everybody eats. And so I guess my snag here is taking this, using a film to pull in this like device of watching a transformation happen and then just doing it really well over and over again. I want that all day. I want more movies that do this with different topics and do it really well. Most of them don't, and this one does.
Well, talking about extra topics, I mean, does that mean that if you did movies about pooping, because everybody poops, that they would be very successful?
You know what? You say it as a joke. You make a movie about how people poop, I guarantee that's a blockbuster.
You say it as a joke, but I have a movie in development right now about sphincters.
It's called Shit Demon.
What was the game? Lately we made up a game show at the cabin that we were at.
It was about
Top Sphincter.
Top Sphincter. So Top Sphincter, guys. This is a game that we made up. So what you do is everybody has to like eat some like chicken with salmonella like the night before the game, right? So you show up to the game.
And it's not even digestively strong sphincters. Nope. It's like physically strong, being able to.
So you show up to the game and the last person to shit themselves wins. So you just basically have to do like all these activities and it's like some different shit, and it's just really testing how strong you can clamp down on the back door.
Activities is a very
really
fun
think,
way to put it. Yes.
In 2022, I really feel like TV is ready for that reality show.
We came up with dozens of challenges.
Oh my
Netflix,
god!
you know you want it.
My lord!
You come to BVK if you want to use that network.
When you see that look and they zooms in on their face, like all of a sudden they have that look, like oh shit,
and
here
then
it
just
comes.
let go.
And there's like a sensor in there too. It's like
just the zoom in is of a mouth like, and it's just the mouth. And you think you're looking at a sphincter.
Yeah, and it zooms out. It zooms out of the mouth, and you're like, oh, look, it's butthole. Oh no, it's his mouth.
Oh, it's a mouth, and he's surprised.
And then it's like, it like all three butts are in the picture, and like you hear the build up music, and then it just the big thing flies in, Top Sphincter, and then goes to a commercial.
See, some of you are going to think that like I set this up just for these guys to rant about this, but I was not on this trip. So
organic.
When I made that stupid, dumb poop joke, I did not know it was going to go this direction.
What happens is if you've ever dropped your iPhone in the toilet, like you're talking to somebody, you drop your iPhone in the toilet, and then you take it to the store, and you're like, I don't know what happened, and then they open it up, and there's a little sticker back there that is turned green, and they're like, you see this? This means you dropped it in the toilet, bitch. Why are you lying to me?
You guys have put that in people's pants?
When the guys are like, I didn't shit myself. No, I didn't. And they're like, let's check his tab, and they look, and fucking there's like moisture on the fucking green. The sticker's turned green, and they're like, sorry, bro, you're out.
Oh shit, you guys went into so many details. I love this.
Pants.
I've thought of a lot about this.
I love this. All the details are so great.
The only thing I couldn't remember was the name, and Nick came through.
Yeah.
Nick came through with Top Sphincter. Fuck.
Oh, that's what you get from the BBK podcast.
Oh, okay.
That I think is gonna be in the promo.
Snag?
Snag.
Are we on Snag?
Snag.
We're still on Snag.
I totally had the same thing as Brad. Just working in a restaurant. I talked about working at Bubba Gump's. I used to work at El Torito, and I worked at a bunch of different restaurants. But freaking Eric's Deli, I worked there. The manager kicked me, and I quit all angrily.
Oh shit!
He kicked you.
He had I wasn't paying attention or something.
Eric?
And he
Was
had,
it Eric?
No, but I got
Oh.
to talk to Eric. So the manager at Eric's Deli kicked me violently. And then I went and complained to Eric. I called a number and was like, I need to talk to Eric. And they were like, we'll have Eric give it. And they're like, you can't talk to Eric. I was like, somebody kicked me. And they're like, all right, well, we'll have
We'll
Eric
send you
call
to
you. And Eric called me and he was like, hey, man, blah, blah, blah. And he was totally cool. And I was like, yeah, man, it was a super violent kick. I said, I just don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Eric sounds like a cool dude.
Hey,
I'm not worried
Bruce
about me. I
Arians.
just don't want anyone else to get kicked.
Bruce Arians punched one of his own players in the helmet like a couple weeks
Is it
ago.
Antonio Brown?
No, it was not Antonio Brown,
okay.
surprisingly, but no, he punched one of his dudes and he got fined $50,000 for it.
But it's also a helmet, so it's kind of jokes on
Well,
it,
yeah.
right?
They kind of every touchdown fucking hit each other in the head so goddamn hard.
It'll be a dude that just came off concussion protocol and like he scores
Like,
a touchdown,
beat
somebody
the
just
shit out
runs
of
up
his
and just
head.
punches him in the side of the head. God damn it, good job, brother.
That probably happens so often in the NFL.
Man, all
Brad,
right.
you got a snag?
I do, and it just Nate actually shagged it, so it was John Leguizamo. I just want to say, just a high energy. If you've never seen any of his comedy, his stand-up comedy, oh my god, like the dude tells these stories about just like grandparents and parents, like growing up in New York as like a first-generation kid, like just so many great stories. He's a great storyteller. I highly recommend all of his stand-up comedy. Just a great actor, great voice for the Latin community, and I mean, going back to Romeo and Juliet, Summer of Sam, just awesome
He's great,
role
man.
in Summer of Sam. Like, I mean, just carries this whole entire crazy movie, and so just love for Leguizamo and all his conversations that he has with Favreau. They all feel so real. Like
They feel very
They
real.
don't feel like scripted. Like, oh, they're like this saying the cool thing to say to each other. It just feels like it's just two people talking.
To me, that's the most authentic part of the movie that's not the food.
Yes,
Like
100%.
like their relationship and his kind of like banter with him. I get lost in that.
Even with the
a
son
little.
and stuff, just kind of like the little fucking around, like just playing around.
Exactly. Like that's the part of the movie that I think is the most, like in terms of story and plot and dialogue, that takes me, away the most.
100%.
Yep, I'm with Nate as far as my snag is just the cooking montages, and I knew this a while ago, but you give me a movie that makes the food look this good, and you're gonna give me enough cooking montages, I'm just a straight up sucker for. There's a movie called The 100-Foot Journey that I also enjoyed. A lot of it's like it's a borderline Hallmarky type movie. It's not, but it's just food throughout it. It takes place in like the French countryside. It's super there's a little like romance that happens in it. It's just like food's like woven throughout it. It looks amazing. You got Julie and Julia, Burnt, Bradley Cooper, and then Chef. I've watched Burnt a shit ton, and it's really all about Cooper and the way the food looks. So I'm with you there. I can't get enough of those. So that's my snag.
So before we go to Body Bag, I got to ask because I haven't brought it up yet, and I didn't even draft it in the draft, which kills me. But one of my favorite chef movies is Spanglish. Have you guys all seen Spanglish with Adam Sandler?
I have not.
No. Yeah. So if I would have picked the sandwich from Spanglish, you guys wouldn't have known what I was talking about.
The draft.
Well, this is
happened yet.
Tuesday, and the
Oh,
draft.
Apologies. Apologies, but okay, all right. Never fucking mind then. Nick, you need to watch Spanglish like tomorrow.
Really, I didn't know that it was okay.
He's a chef.
I thought it wasn't.
And it's fucking
I saw a clip today.
great. I'm going
and
to talk about it on
Nate's- and
streaming
Nate's
recommendations.
Link is cheap.
Yeah.
All right, Body Bag.
I'm going to go first.
Okay.
So, we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
Are we going to fight?
We're supposed to believe that Jon Favreau is boning ScarJo and Gloria from Modern Family.
At separate times.
And this is just he's just running through the scene in LA and he's just like, okay,
He's
you
a
know what I mean?
celebrity chef. That's
He's-
the one thing.
I don't-
I
is he a
chatted up,
celebrity chef, though?
Yeah.
I don't think he's a celebrity chef.
Yes,
he
he
was
is.
getting the big promos. He talks about. I mean, they talk about how he was getting like some huge like.
Was he on a
he's
TV
the
show?
Up
No.
and coming dude, like this young chef in Miami that's like coming up, and like, so he was getting the big props from like some of the big critics.
Yeah. I didn't get the vibe that he was like a freaking Mario Batali or something like that.
He's not quite that, but he's
think so?
he's more of like a younger.
He was
up-and-coming-
known in the
yeah.
cooking world.
Yeah.
So he's like a household name to
Yes.
people that aren't in the cooking world.
So okay. So I got problems here. So I want to play.
I want to hear it.
Okay, so, and this isn't exactly your take, although I'll happily throw you under this particular bus. But I've seen this take before, right? And essentially the take goes like this. Didn't Jon Favreau just write this movie so that he could pretend that he is awesome?
That's my,
sounds like-
that's my whole,
I
that's my whole
believe
take.
we said that exactly.
It's
Like
literally
a little
my
bit
whole
earlier.
take.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying, hot, good-looking, desirable enough to have both Scarlett Johansson and Sofia Vergara. So, like, when I unpack that a little bit, I'm like, okay, wait. So, why is that? What is the premise of why that's so outlandish? And I think the premise is, I don't see any other premise, which is just he is like a little overweight and sort of not that traditionally good looking, and they're both very attractive women.
But also miserable and like not very fun to be around, seemingly most of the movie.
Okay.
Like, it's not even just his looks.
Okay, but that's not the take. Like,
lives in a shitty apartment.
The take is generally a very and I think especially when women make this take, it's kind of a complaint. Like, men are always, like fantasizing about how they're, why do they get to like have these very beautiful, sometimes younger women? But I'm like, okay, but you're complaining about him having this like superficial like fantasy take where he writes this movie, but your complaint is essentially that he's not good looking enough for these women. Do they complain if Brad Pitt is playing that role? Is this take like, do we have the same take if he's really good looking?
I guess not, but
So I think that's part of my take is I'm a little bit like, you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. Either you can be critical of the fact that like there's this sort of superficiality to Jon Favreau's like desire to just like have the most beautiful women supposedly be his partners, or you can be like, I'm going to say that people should on the other side of it, like I'm going to say that people should value things other than that, and so I'm okay with him.
It's true, but it goes back to things like there was, according to Jim, had Courtney Thorne Smith with Jim Belushi. It goes back to King of Queens with Leah Remini's with what's his name, the Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Paul Blart's good.
What's his
I know
name?
what you're talking about. Kevin James.
Kevin James and Leah Remini.
But I think this is part of my. I hear that and I see that, but I also think that like the root of all of these things is like these men are somehow, because they're unattractive, not allowed to like pretend that they're with these good looking women. But the root of it is like, but it's exactly the reverse thing that they're complaining about, right? Which is that people are complaining about, which is somehow that like
that Zach is complaining about.
that Zach is complaining about. So I guess I think that like there's some like inherent hypocrisy built right into it. That's one. But two, he's a celebrity chef, and not only is he a celebrity chef, he's kind of charismatic dude, right? Like he's good at his thing. Like my wife has talked about, how someone who's super talented and super good at things is very attractive to her, no matter whether they're very unattractive physically initially. And you guys have to have known like women who initially you saw, separate from the talent part of it, women that you met and didn't think much about, but like got to know really well. And all of a sudden they're like you can't think about anything else.
I guess I just don't buy that he's like a celebrity chef. I don't buy that.
I think they sell that in the movie enough.
You think so?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm just saying personality counts.
And celebrity, not TV show, but like, and actually, isn't it cooler to not be on TV and be the next hot like chef? Like that's
I
that's
guess
the chef you want to be.
But that's also the chef that no one knows his fucking name.
I'm just
right?
gonna say, one of you make a very delicious looking meal, like particularly just for me. You guys can be very suggestive of what I might do for you.
I like where this is going.
ScarJo.
This is a new episode of Top Sphincter.
Oh man!
All right, I'll go for my next body bag, and I don't even know if it's like a body bag. It kind of is, but the Tweety birds in the tweets, it's so random, and like I don't know if I like it or if I don't like it. It doesn't like kill the movie for me because, like I said, I'm reaching, but it's like you gotta admit it's random.
I'll say
animated birds throughout the movie that are like the cute little tweets.
The only like redeeming factor of that is that Twitter paid zero money for that. So the fact that it wasn't that Twitter was like, we're gonna pay you, and you're gonna put these little animated birds into it. Like
And that's funny. I didn't even think of it even like that, even though that's a completely whole other thing I didn't even think about, kind of like a selling out and like shameless like ad placement. I
Right.
didn't even think about that. It just is so random that there's these animated Tweety birds like, connected to Twitter. But at the same time,
I thought it was
kind of
clever.
funny.
My daughter was laughing at
Yeah.
it, so I thought
Yeah.
it was kind of.
I'm reaching, but
There's a
anyways.
certain point where like so much communication happens over either text message or social media that in order to like project it into a movie, I think Social Network does it, right? Or a bunch of different stuff where they're-
variety of movies have done this now. Yeah,
yeah. What
They
is
show the text above people's heads
Yes,
or things like
exactly.
that.
They're typing on their
Exactly.
phone maybe, and then it shows it on the screen. Like, there's got to be a way for them to do it. I agree. The way they did it here is
kind of funny. Yeah.
My body bag is just the movie's just almost too saccharine. It's just a little bit too syrupy sweet. That fairy tale just version where it's like part of me wants to just be like, okay, we needed to have something happen in this movie besides just positive. Like, oh, there's a little conflict, but oh, it gets overworked quick, and then just positive. Like, part of me, the cynical side of me was like, I need something kind of dark to happen in this movie. But at the same time, in the end, I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. So I can't complain too much.
I my only body bag potentially is the ending. It feels a little rushed and maybe a little bit.
Anytime you jump like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this movie didn't have that. Like the rest of the movie didn't seem like it automatically gave you the feel of like I'm going to jump around, with that big of time jumps.
Well, and then they just throw you into the wedding, like,
Yeah.
oh, they're married, like, oh, they remarried, how cute.
Yeah, and I think this is gets back to my earlier point, which is it really would have been a body bag for me if the movie tried to play harder on that like heavy theme of like the father son thing or the him being having a difficult time because he's divorced or something like that. But they never let that get too heavy, and as a result, I'm like, okay, the ending.
They make you think it's going to go there, but it never really does too hard.
They don't.
anyways.
And so I think that's why I'm struggling to say like, but if I have to pick a body bag, I think it felt like the end just kind of was a little too sort of contrived and rushed.
Well, they put the moments in where they both say "I love you" on the phone, and it's like very kind of like, oh my
Which
god, why did we do that?
happen in that way.
I would just hope, like, I was actually hoping as I watched, I was like, I hope that's just like, what, it kind of previewing that they might get together, but they don't. I just wanted them not to get together. Like, they can have a happy relationship outside of their marriage. Just let them like be good
and
separated couple and just just be able to manage it the way that hopefully that the divorced couples
Well,
would.
you could have ended it with her in the food truck. It didn't at that point even feel like they had to be a couple, like
Right.
Or leave it a little ambiguous.
Yeah, it felt like they were kind of on good terms, and like that was very functional, and that all seemed good.
They're doing the right thing for their kid, like
yeah, and have moved on and are happy to be friends and whatever. Yeah,
so. All right,
Is that all our body bags?
that's it.
That's it.
zipped up.
All right. Moving
Cameo.
on.
Do we have cameo?
We do. It's actually super simple. Russell Peters, comedian, stand up, Instacop on this movie, just takes an obnoxious amount of photos with Jon Favreau. He was formerly on Cameo, so we got no prices on him. I thought
He
there
was
would be
probably
some other
pricey,
folks
though.
that would be.
I mean, Russell Peters is like a big fucking
He's-
deal.
He's one of the most top grossing
Yeah.
comedians for a while. Like,
I don't.
legit.
I mean, no offense, Russell, but I don't think you're very funny at all. Like, I've tried to watch your stand up several times. It's not very funny.
You know what? It is funny that I've seen him on so many lists of top like grossing comedians, and I'm the same way.
Yeah, he doesn't make
I've
me
never
laugh.
found a stand up of his that I'm like, this is the one I got to show people. Like, just
Yep.
doesn't do it for me. But yeah, that's Cameo.
Thanks, Russell.
Thanks, Brad. All right. Streaming recommendations. You guys got any?
I want you to watch Burnt if you haven't seen Burnt.
So it's good.
That's what I have too.
There's
some people that shit on it.
I would say that it's not. Again, it's similar in this way where I think there's a little more story, and they probably lean into some of the like theme of it a little more in that way. But at the end of the day, it's still a movie that's primarily a food porn movie.
29 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh,
Yeah, so it definitely is. I actually think it's not as good as Chef, but it's definitely one that if you like this food, like watching food be made, it's as good as any.
And it's a darker look on it. It's not
darker.
light.
Yeah, no,
it
no.
goes to
Totally
it tries to
different
go
that way.
darker, but because of the food. I feel
But
like
it's Bradley
it brings
Cooper,
it
and
to
Bradley
like
Cooper's
a-
pretty good in it.
I
and
like
there-
Bradley Cooper.
And there are some good nuggets. Like there's
Sienna
some
Miller.
really good scenes in it.
Sienna
Well, I'll say
Miller
there's a lot of
writes
dysfunctional people in restaurants. Like, I mean, that's the one thing that Chef doesn't really show is that everybody's like, oh, good natured and happy and stuff. But there's alcoholics. There's people that have tons of DUIs. There's people that are into drugs. They're
like
they're
hardcore
coked
drugs,
up, and like that's how they keep their whole rush going to make sure that they're managing the restaurant properly. I mean,
And
there's-
Burnt ties into that. It tries to without getting like Requiem for a Dream, but it definitely connects to like hardcore
Yeah.
like drug use and
'cause
recovering from that. And can you come out of it?
Chef doesn't cover that at all. I mean, they have the lingo and like the kind of the vibe, but there's a lot of dysfunctional people in restaurants. 100%.
Burnt, Amazon Prime, or IMDb.
Yep.
IMDb TV.
Oh, don't watch it on IMDb TV though.
I'm just saying.
I
you
paid
don't-
for Chef. That
Lots
was
of
like
commercials.
you can watch it for free right now. We'll start it for you. I'm like, no, I'm paying that
$7.99.
$3 to get. Oh,
$3.99 Amazon.
$7.99?
I bought it.
Oh, you
Oh,
bought
damn.
it? I liked it. I thought that was really good. I think it's worth it.
I can't watch it until I pay $3 again.
What do you guys at?
So my streaming recommendation is going to be Spanglish. I don't think any of these guys have seen it, but Adam Sandler. I would have told you until right before this pod that it was Adam Sandler and Penelope Cruz. It's not. It's a woman named Paz Vega. No idea. It's Penelope Cruz's doppelganger. And Tia Leone plays his wife. He kind of falls for this other chick, but it's a really good romantic comedy. He's a chef, and it's kind of he has several parts where he prepares himself this ridiculous breakfast sandwich, and then he makes her some stuff later. It's very cool. Sandler's good in it. Check it out. Oh, and it's on Stars or Apple TV.
So I got. I just don't have the streaming for one, but I have two. First off, Ratatouille, Disney Plus. It's a movie that was Thomas Keller of the French Laundry, as we talked about. He was the coordinator for the movie as far as the cooking. So when they animated it, they were looking at designing it so that the chefs are doing real things, little things. That there's one thing I noticed in Chef, Jon Favreau. At one point, you see his wrist, and he has a very deep scar on his wrist, and chefs get a lot of different scars from their hands, from their knives, from burns and things like that. Same thing they did in Ratatouille. They actually, some of the chefs, the sous chefs and stuff, you see their hands, they've got little burns and things. So I mean, just putting those little details into it. Pixar always is going to go for detail. They're going to have just a really realistic version of a kitchen, aside from the rats that are cooking the food. But it's a great movie. A lot of good dishes, a lot of good food in that. And then my second is a documentary called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. If you want to see an expert chef putting all of their heart and soul into their craft.
In cartoon mode.
No, this is not a cartoon. This is
it's not a cartoon?
This is a documentary.
Oh, okay.
This is a real restaurant in Japan that serves about, I think it's like 16 people per night. They have 16 seats, and they serve some of the best sushi. It's expensive, but just watching their process of how they do it, of how the lower chefs train to get up to the spot where they can actually be like assisting them and stuff. It's a badass documentary. Jiro Dreams of Sushi. I'm sure it's available somewhere. Check it out. Netflix, I think for sure, but
It's really good.
it's a great doc.
All right, those are our streaming recommendations. Let's move on to our reshelf category and alternate endings. Zach, Nate, you guys got anything?
Only my Chef Till Dawn, where they like the movie's really happy, right? Like it's the same exact movie, and they're like it's all the same music, everything's feeling good, and then they show up at L.A. He pulls into the food truck spot, and it's overrun by vampires.
God
So now
damn.
he and Leguizamo have to fight their way, right? Because the son gets taken, and they've got to fight their way to rescue the son from the vampires.
Leguizamo doesn't make it.
He doesn't make it. No, he dies, but it's like a really emotional.
Yeah, but he's like really badass in the way he dies. Right?
He sacrifices himself to save the son. Yeah.
Or if we want to go with the happy note on Chef, they realize zombies actually taste pretty good, and they start serving up some zombie sandwiches. After killing all these zombies, they're like,
Actually,
we got a shit ton of food
it's
here.
these in the plancha.
It's vampires.
Oh, vampires! Oh, well, fuck it, they're cooking up vampires too, and they're tasty. All that blood going through them, they really get get a lot of flavor to the meat.
Yeah, people that eat meat like a lot of blood in their meat.
The vampire meat is tender.
the vampire backstrap.
This tastes really bloody. This is good. What is this?
That's all I got.
It's vampire. Zach, what do you got, dude?
I have an also so not a lot of people know this, but they actually had the original script that was written by Favreau, but the studio wanted to change it. So I have a transcript of the original script right here. So what actually happens is when the whole movie goes the same way. He's with ScarJo, he's with Gloria from Modern Family, he's doing his whole thing. He goes over to Florida, and then on the way back, his truck actually breaks down in Texas, and that's where he has a meet cute with Alexandra Daddario and Sydney Sweeney, and they have a torrid love affair right there in Texas. You know what I mean? There's a scene of him making them an omelet or something while they stare at him dreamily from the bed, and then he heads back into California, and just he's just met by like the entire freaking, I don't know, whoever the most beautiful women are in California. And then
They welcome him at the state line.
yeah, they're like, "Hey, come to California."
Just a procession. They're all lined up along the road, just flashing their tits as he drives by.
as his fucking truck that there's no way it could drive across the country drives right across the country, and he makes it.
And then he finally wakes up.
Yeah, and then he wakes up and he's like, and it's just his boss like, "Fucking cut the Julianne!"
Hey, my only reshelf that I was messing with is funny because when Zach walked up today, his time his kids were watching Truman Show.
Yes.
And I actually was starting to kind of develop an idea of like, this is basically the Truman Show, where it's like all this good shit that's happening to him, like all the people around him are actors and stuff, and they're just it's like a reality show where they're just trying to make this dude like, is he going to be like this chef? Will he succeed?
And it turns out his food just sucks.
His food's not great. Yeah,
terrible.
All the Twitter shit is like, it's not actually going on Twitter. It's just his fake son like doing
Grilled
stuff.
cheese
So.
is Kraft and wheat bread.
Okay. That reminds me. Do you guys remember a show from like 2002 that was where it was a reality show and everyone on the reality show was an actor except for one guy, and he was the
Yes.
only guy on the show that didn't know?
I don't remember what that shit was called, but
God damn, you guys, we got to look that up and watch that.
Somebody post on our socials the correct answer.
Oh, it's God, I'll remember it, but it's only one guy doesn't know. Everyone else is actors, and by the end of it, like they picked this dude that is like the most like the nicest, and they all by the end of the show they're like, we're fucking this guy over. He has no idea. He's like calling one of them like his best friend.
yeah,
And, like,
they
they're
really like
yes,
legitimately
dude.
like. I don't think that's why they did it again. They felt like we really just fucked this dude up bad.
It was crazy. you
Yeah,
guys.
it was like a legit Truman Show.
It was like appointment viewing for my me and my roommates when we were in college. We were
called
like,
Catfish?
"Oh my god, we have to watch this show."
Appointment viewing is my
Dude,
favorite.
it
new
was
term.
fucking spectacular.
Well, let's end on Zach's rewatch, reshelf. I like it. I'd watch it
Hey,
late, 1 a.m. on Cinemax,
you mean like
Skinemax.
you mean like an hour and 40 minutes from now?
In
Don't say it. Don't say it. If you don't say it, it doesn't mean that it's
late as
actually
fuck.
as late as it is.
So on Thursday, we're going to draft the most delicious looking movie dishes.
Yes, Thursday we're going to draft most of the delicious looking movie dishes or just food in a movie. That's what we're drafting.
And Walter is going to be back with us to judge us.
And his wife Kendra is going to be a special
She might drop in if we're lucky.
guest to help out with the judging. Yes.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
Yeah. Well, you guys follow us on the socials. BVK IPA coming out Saturday. Look for it. Pay attention to the socials. Maybe we'll send you some beers, t-shirts, post reviews, comments. We appreciate you guys.
Do all the things. Come drink our beer. Eat chicken sandwiches.
And they're delicious. Like legit. I should probably put the we'll do a link or something to their
Ooh.
truck so you can see some of the
Ooh.
visuals, because the visuals, right now food trucks are a visual medium. You see that shit on Instagram and stuff. Oh my god,
It's delicious looking.
Let's make sure that the
tasty.
link that we post isn't illegal, please.
right? But I'm just saying I've eaten this shit. It's not just haven't just looked at it. I've eaten it. It's
Facebook's gonna be like, this shit looks too good. It's illegal. You guys do you accept
back
your
to
guilt?
jail. And now we're 2-time offenders too. That's going to be bad. That doesn't help us for sentencing.
We have to go to sleep. Goodbye, beautiful people.
See you
Night,
Thursday.
night.
Bye, y'all.
Bye bye.
love this scene. Nick, Nate, Zach, and Brad, your favorite podcast. The stars